South San Antonio Independent School District special call meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, October 9th, 2018, and the time is 6 p.m. Can I get roll call?
Mrs. Angelino Seguin.
Present.
Mr. Luis Ibarra Jr.
Here.
Mr. Edward Munguia.
Here.
Mrs. Leticia Guerra. Mrs. Connie Prado. Present. Mr. Luis Rodriguez.
Here.
Mrs. Elda Flores.
Present. Okay, and I'd like to, we're going to be discussing Team of 8 training.
Thank you. Well, welcome. It's nice to see all of you again. We're following up on a couple of things. So we're hoping tonight to have a little bit of a change. Some new people around the table, so it might be a good time to kind of re-norm and have some conversation about who we are now, and talk about there's these community meetings you're having. I'm happy to have the opportunity to go to the first one, and we have the second one next week, I think, and then the third one is in November. Okay, and that third one's on Lone Star Governance, so it's a great opportunity to see if we can talk about that as well. And then we're going to be talking about accountability updates, because I think that's a follow-up to the last board meeting, and really take the opportunity to go a little bit deeper on that and answer some questions. And throughout all of that is the opportunity to kind of enhance our communication skills and strategies and really have some deeper conversations in a very different setting, and not your typical board meeting. And I failed to introduce my colleague, Deanne Drummond-Eslack. I know some of you have worked with her before in the past, but she sent me out in the world by myself, and so she decided to come check on me this evening. So,
No, it's an honor to be here with you guys tonight to go through the process.
thank you. So let's go ahead and get started with looking at that accountability.
Okay, so good afternoon, good evening. Nice to see everyone tonight. So I know there's a big concern and questions about how do we become a D? What happened? And what do we need to do to get at least up to a C? And so that's what I'd like to share with y'all today. Now, as we presented in August about our accountability, it's a 70% of the higher of Domain 1 or 2. You got a 63 in Domain 1, a 69 in Domain 2, and then 30% is in Domain 3, which is where we got a 51. And so that is what got us to a D. But we need to drill down to really start identifying how did that happen, and how close are we to get a C going forward. And Dr. Fulitas, as always, please just jump in as always. So what you're going to see here is as we've now gotten really deep into our accountability and the targets we have to hit, there's targets that hit Domain 1, 2, and 3. And so it's identifying our areas of leverage that we really can focus in and hone in on. So Domain 1 has 3 components. It's our start performance, and it's an average component score that converts to a scale score. Our college, career, military readiness, you're going to see this a lot. Percent of our students that meet this standard. This could be TSI, AP, dual credit, enrolling in armed forces, CTE, course sequence, and again it converts to a scale score. And then our graduation rate, 20% is best of year 4, 5, or 6. So this is how we did in component 1 of Domain 1. 63, 29, 9, which got us a 33.6, that rounded to a 34. That 34 converted to a 59, okay? Now, let's just look though. If we increase 9%, I believe a total of 9% in approaches, 7% from 29 to 36, and 2% in masters, it would be a component score of 40, which would transfer to a 70. So we're talking 18% among those 3. Now I spread it amongst 3 of them. We could have 18% increase in just approaches, and it would get us to a 70. Now, if we wanted to go to the B, we'd have to have obviously, from a 63 to an 8, we'd have to have more significant increases in them. But so just to get to a C, very, very much in our grasp. The second part is our college and career readiness. Now this is calculated from the 2016-2017 school year. That is very important because as you remember, some of y'all may recall, we had some transitioning with our former CTE coordinator and a new CTE coordinator. That was very tragic, that happened to us. And so this was all from the 2016-17 school year. So our component score was 35. We had 188.5 students that hit one of those targets, college, career, CTE, military. If we had 210, an increase in about 22 more students, it would have given us a 39, which would have given us a 22 more students. And then our graduation rate is the best of 4, 5, or 6 year. We had an 89.4, that converts to a 65. That's just domain 1. So, there it is. Now let's talk domain 2. Part B is what we did with school progress. There are 3 components. Our STAR performance component score, our CCMR, which is what we had before. Remember that number? It was a 35, right? So now that hits us again in domain 2, okay? And then the percent of economically disadvantaged students. So we had a 35 CCMR, okay? Our STAR performance was a 34 plus 35, that averages to a 35. With our ECO-DISC, we're at an 86.5 as a district. That translated to a domain 2 score of 69. If this score increased to a 36, and all of this remains the same, we would have had a 70 in domain 2. That's it. That's it. So either our CCMR increase or our STAR increase, but one of those two, that's all we needed was a 36, and we would have had a 70. Now again, 39 gets us higher up to a 75. Sir?
Ms. Professor, can you please elaborate on how we get the 86.5 determination for economically?
Yes, excellent question, Dr. Flores. So that is determined by our free and reduced lunch surveys, us gathering those from all of the campuses. I'll be happy to report that one of the first conversations I had with Dr. Flores is he asked me, how are you monitoring this, Ms. Castro? And my response is, I'm not, sir. I'm just assuming that everybody's doing it. He's like, no ma'am, you need to get a spreadsheet, you need to get something, they need to start reporting every week. They have been reporting every week, and it's been very interesting because principals have even said, you know, when we did this training with them, they were like, I'm signing off on things on Teams and I don't know what I'm looking, I need to look deeper, I need to go deeper on this, I need to go find parents, and so we started with interestingly enough, a couple of campuses that are not like we know they're at the 90% ECO-DISC, we're at like 77%. We know that's not correct. So they went and found, so once, it's amazing, awareness creates accountability. So once they knew that I'm monitoring this every week, you need to meet with your data clerk, you need to get, well, and this was another thing that data clerks were doing duty, they were doing this, they were, answering, they need to be in an office, making sure this data, I cannot stress how important this accuracy is to our accountability. So that also caused some changes too, where, okay, we're gonna move our data clerk to an office where she's not interrupted, if we need to, and now everybody like nurses, aides, they're helping out with trying to get these applications in as well.
I have a question. Doesn't the food service department or nutrition department, aren't they obliged to keep a track of how many economically disadvantaged kids we are serving meals to? Because I think they have to report that, don't they?
So one of the things, I can elaborate on that.
Thank you, sir.
So I know that and I just found out recently, we are considered a community eligibility provision district, which means that every student in the district qualifies for free meals, which is great. In any other districts that are not CEP districts, then you have to go by the forms that they submit, the legal forms you have to turn in to determine based on your income and the number of people in the family that it qualifies it for free or reduced. When you're a CEP district, you no longer have to turn in those forms specifically. but you do still have to find a way to document who qualifies for free and reduced. This is where the surveys come. And so now we use surveys in lieu of the official forms that you would have to turn in for food service.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, kind of an overall generalization up to this point, is that at the campus level, we're probably lacking in our principal training on the new accountability to know what to be focused on.
We were lacking last year. We are not lacking anymore.
And let me speak to that. Everybody learned the hard way this year. And what I mean by that is that the training that you got from TEA was very broad, and it's an overview. It's the 70-30. It's school progress, part A, part B. You understand the concepts, but the math that goes behind it,
Yes.
the cut scores,
Yeah.
the points that are the specific to the T, to know where you got to hit, and how much closing the gaps was going to affect. Just about every district in the state was affected by the closing gaps, because if you recall previously, when you had your report cards, you would see the beautiful little bar graphs, and they're great when you're meeting that little red line and it's above the red line. Hey, awesome, we're hidden. But on that little corner, you had the system safeguards. You remember those? And then it would say, well, 0 of 11 indicators, 2 of 11 indicators, and you got a percentage there. And it's like, okay, does it affect us? Not really. It's the federal guidelines. We have to meet the federal guidelines for it. Well, now that the federal government came back to the state and said, hey, no, that counts. Now it's 30% of your accountability. So now you can't hide your subpopulations. Now you have to address the spec ed kids, you have to address the bilingual kids, you have to address your Hispanic population, your white. And so now it's about every kid counts, which is what the state has been saying. But it's not until you got hit with what the actual numbers were going to be, the cut scores,
Right.
you could get an idea and an understanding of, okay, now we really see what the game is. So everybody got slapped and woken up. It's not just South San. It was just about every district.
Yeah, so let me elaborate a little bit
Sure.
on that, just from a pulling back perspective. So here's the other thing that's happening. So the commissioner's final decisions and accountability come out in March. Okay? March. It's like saying in the third quarter of the football game, we're going to tell you what the rules are.
Yep.
Okay? And I don't mean that in a disrespectful
Right.
way, but again, they run their, particularly in the first year of an accountability system. So the truth of the matter is you learn the rules in the third quarter. Okay? The other thing in CCMR, that's a lagging indicator, which means it was from the class of 2016. Okay? So in other words, the die was already cast before you even started the school year. Okay? And so the PIN's coding. So there's a couple of things here. One is definitely, as everybody has said, we're learning. Okay? Unfortunately, we're learning, ouch, we touched the stove and it was hot. Okay? We didn't know the burner was on. Okay, now we know. Okay, so that's one. The bigger picture here is we're becoming more and more intricate in our accountability systems, that it's like the Rubik's Cube. If you mess with one little thing, you're messing with 5 or 6 other things. Perfect example are the free and reduced lunch forms. That's exactly the way we calculate. We still calculate the economically disadvantaged. I'm looking at that number going, I don't think so, not right here. Okay? But, and it's not that people aren't doing, but what happens is they're thinking, okay, the free and reduced opens the door to the breakfast and the lunch program. Well, now under this universal program, we've already got that. So a parent that may be reluctant to report that their income is, oh good, now I don't have to report that.
Yes.
It's not unusual. We have the same thing happening in minor programs. I don't want them to know that and so we can't question what a parent puts down, they put that down. Even another program, bilingual. Okay? They go, oh no,
They deny.
They
Or
deny.
they want to be denied.
okay? And so, but we can't force that. Does it run through the accountability system? Sure it does in terms of the numbers. So it's the reality in which we deal. Okay? One other piece that we're going to talk about is it's about data integrity. That's really what this is. And so because of the complexity, it's how do we have double and triple redundancy in our system. So for example, we know we're collecting the forms, okay? We know we're turning them in. Are they coded correctly? And who's looking at that? Because truthfully, if I'm a paintings clerk, I'm just looking if there's something in that cell, okay? It takes the program person to be able to come over and go, well, yeah, that number doesn't look right. There's something wrong. Let me see the roster, right? Let's double check that. That's what accountants do. They double check that.
Child by child.
Yes, child by child. I mean, and of course, everybody has all the extra time in the system to do that kind
All
of
the
stuff.
extra people.
So those aren't excuses, those are the reality.
Right.
So in reducing staff, we're really shooting ourselves in the foot, bottom line. Because, and I can say this because I used to do this, okay? I was a Phoenix person. You know, you have to have somebody at the central office that trains these data clerks the same way. Everyone has to hear the same message, the same information. Then you gotta have someone that is going to be monitoring, because like I always told them, junk in, junk out, the integrity, okay? Because the PINs is so crucial to so many things, okay? Well, number one is we get funding based off of that, okay?
Yes.
Then number two, we're coding, and if we're not coding right, then we get, blasted with that. Okay, so who's gonna do it? There's so many people wearing so many hats, but yet this is the most critical piece in accountability and in funding. Okay, so you gotta have somebody that's gonna go out there. I used to do little mini audits, but then I could do it. I walked into the schools and I looked and I demanded. But also, special pops. Special pop directors have to be looking at that, okay? Because when does the principal have time to do all of that? When? Okay, when you've got to be walking into the classrooms, you've got to be looking at instructions going on, okay? You've got to be doing all these other things. So and is the principal trained to see what is really supposed to be? No. It's the peace person and it's the directors of those special pops to make sure that their information aligns with what's being placed, what's being, keyed in. Because a clerk as a clerk, I advocated for those clerks all the time because they were always given extra duties.
Right.
Well, they said you can't do that. Or they would put them right in front where a parent would come in and they wanted to register. You're working and all of a sudden somebody comes in and you're distracted, guess what? You make a mistake, okay? You're answering the phone, you make a mistake. You've got to have a room where that's all you do.
And one of the things that we can do is we can revisit just how we structure
How we
the
start.
roles and responsibilities of the
Yes.
existing staff that we have.
Exactly.
So we
Which is
can have,
what I was saying, it comes down to the
Yes.
staff, to the principal,
Yeah.
the leader of the campus.
Right. A data clerk, an inaccurate data clerk, it could really,
Yeah, that's it.
it could hurt
Yeah.
campus.
So let's
Yeah.
add two things to that. So one is certainly there's a staffing consideration. Equally important is a process consideration. Because staffing won't guarantee it any more than processing. So it's really the combination, because sometimes, think about what you've done as board. You've adjusted your agenda to be more efficient. Okay, so it's the processes that you use, and those are the kinds of level board questions. So talk to me about the processes. It's not about do we have 15 people, 16 people.
No.
That's important.
No.
I don't want to
No.
negate that, but it's about the
Right.
process, because that's the piece that helps a great deal.
And then after
That
that
is getting done
process, it's that checks and balances.
Exactly.
And then the process is how are we checking everything, how is everything getting balanced, and balanced, I mean the numbers in each of those special populations and targets.
Well, because the thing is that we had some schools that were Bs. So those schools are doing something correctly all the time,
Right.
right? I mean, no matter what, those two schools went through the same stuff that all the other schools went through. They went through integration of new kids,
Yeah.
bilingual population added to this.
Yeah.
They went through the same diversity that all the other schools went through. It's just somehow they were able to manage
Right.
better. And so that's why I think that the process part of it
and
is more
I'm
important.
glad that you mentioned that, Liz, because I know that one of the things that we just finished having a discussion, we qualified for that community partnerships grant.
Yes.
And Region 13 is going to come in, and they're going to help evaluate our elementary campuses. so that we can look at all of our strengths and weaknesses, and the ones that have winning formulas, on whatever, they base it on a variety of indicators. But whatever are those best practices, now it's going to be about sharing those best practices with each other so that we can replicate the winning formula. So we have our B campuses that perform really well. What was it that they did that was working? How can we put that in place with the other camps? So it's going to be a shared learning experience. And that's going to be happening over the fall of 2018. So you can expect some outcomes.
That's good news.
Yeah, so we're working towards that.
So our last component is domain 3, and if you notice, that's the one that we scored the lowest on. We got a 51. And again, you see the meets again, grade level performance, federal graduation rate, which is 4 years, then at each student population at the federal graduation rate, English language proficiency, which is our TELPAS, and then student achievement. Student achievement in this domain is the percent of your student population meeting the CCMR. Again, now this is the third time we've seen college career military readiness.
Do you
So-
guys want a copy of the presentation?
Okay, yes, I'll be happy to. Yes,
We'll
I'll be
get
happy
those
to.
to you after.
So we got 0 out of the 20 indicators, 0. So that means up here is the target, and this is how we score, the percentage we score. And these are the number of students across the district that we missed it by. Now, why do I have these 6 areas highlighted? We missed African American by 3 kids. We missed white, this area, this student population, by 12 kids. Special ed, we missed the target by 9 kids. Special ed, former special ed, that means they'd exited out of the program, 18. We missed it by 18 kids. So all of this is less than 20 students, just 20 students, less. 7 kids in African American for math, and here's the math target down here, as you see. And then, again, 12 students in white.
So I have a question.
Yes,
So of those 20 kids,
right.
okay, are any of them duplicate to the
Oh, of
kids?
course they are, yes.
They're multiplier kids.
They're both, so what he means by that, and Scott and I want to kind of give a shout out to Mr. Lallman. He has helped me with creating these tables. He's also identified the students that missed meets by 1 or 2 questions, and if they've hit, they're Hispanic, they're economically Hispanic, they're special ed, they're this, so therefore those hit, you could have 1 student that hits 4 targets. Okay, so he has done, and principals, we've already had a data meeting on it. Principals have every single kid that missed meets by 1 or 2 questions. So on this one, this is hitting, we did 44%, 32% hitting the meets category. So we had 0 of the 20, but we were very close in 6 of those indicators. And I'll show you how that affects us. So then here's the second piece. Our graduation rate, okay? 21 more kids would have hit us here. We would have gotten the 90, and we could have gotten EcoDis. 4 more students of English language learners, and then 5 more special ed students. Now, could these 21 kids here, would these 4 and 5 be in these 21?
Yes.
Most likely. But that is how close they had, the high school needed to find, before snapshot of 2018, about 20 to 22 more kids to graduate, and they would have hit these 3. Again, we got
So
0.
every single one of those kids has a name.
Mhm.
And they are somebody
Yep.
in our campuses. And we need to find out who they are because they are the difference makers for us. Although, yes, we need to look out for all kids because
Right.
there's a lot of those kids that can help us. When you go look at all students,
Right.
you know, you
Right.
really get to really see. But I mean, if you're going to be targeted by your approach, you want to make sure that we're meeting our targets. Here's a question for you. The targets don't change, correct, for the closing
For 5
gaps?
years.
For 5 years, it's the same percentage of the
Correct.
targets. So if you're looking at 32% at African American, 60% for white, 90% for
Yes.
special ed, those targets are not going to change for the
For
next
5 years.
So
That's
we
correct.
know where we need to hit,
Yes.
and we know how close we are to that. So
Yes.
So the only asterisk to that comment,
Sure.
which is absolutely true, is if you're going into a legislative session.
Ah,
So the
well,
anything could happen on.
That's right.
we were able, or you were able to identify the number of kids that we still need to work on, the
Yes.
very misted.
Mhm.
So is there not a way during the year that we could have identified or gotten an idea of, well, we're almost there, but these are the number of kids that we think
We're doing that right now. So we have till snapshot, which is October 26th. And so already we have identified every Monday, Denise, our Director of Accountability and PEEMS, and Lee's team, his lead counselor, his dual credit, early college, Miss Balzaduas, who's over, all they have done is and I can show you that, I have a spreadsheet of every child who walked the stage in 2018, verifying this child was in the military. We have verification of that. This child got, what do you call it, let's say wasn't qualified for TSI, but then they passed it later, that count. And so therefore to change the PEEMS coding. So we have a couple of more weeks, but every Monday starting in August, once we started school, once we started getting enrollment, that's what we've had a team every Monday at 1 o'clock, and they come and look at every single child. Because what we can do right now is the kids, because this right here is for the 2018 graduates who just walked. And so that's what we're looking at now. And I believe, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we have somebody who just graduated yesterday?
I think so, yeah, I just got a call today.
Because y'all adopted the board policy of us having that flexible where if they get their credit, we can graduate them. So in addition to that, I believe our target for the graduation rate right now from what Lee told me was 16 students. Now this was from last year, right? But for coming up, they're trying to find 16 kids that are within 1 or 2 credits away. They're working on trying to find them, getting in with the credit recovery that we have on campus. Yeah, yes, and no, but not I believe, and so we getting them, and so seeing how close we can get for the 2018. Yes, sir.
Their question is the graduation rate on a lag year as well for closing the gaps. If it's the 4-year, correct? The one that they look at.
It's
It's
4
the
or 5.
4 or
4 or 5 is it the
4 or
best?
5, 6.
For
It's the
domain
best.
3, it's only
It's 4.
No, for the domain, but for
Domain
closing the
4.
gap specifically, is that specifically rated to a year 4 or year 5 or the best rate that we have?
I think for this one is year 4.
It's
And so
year
that's
4.
why we're, for the 2018, if we can get, if they were that freshman cohort, and we can get, I want to say, he said 16 more kids from that freshman cohort that could still graduate in 2018.
Sorry.
But I'll confirm, sir, because I know the other one is best of 5, 4, 5, and 6, graduation rate 4, 5, and 6, but I will
We're just
confirm.
going to make sure we're all under the same limit.
Right, absolutely, sir, yes.
So just want to come back to that first comment that you made earlier. Remember, it's always about the data integrity. So did we code at the graduate?
Yes.
Right.
Imagine if we had it, but we didn't code it right. So it
And
wasn't
that's
the
what
kids
we're
not
doing.
doing it. It was
Right.
The system didn't do it.
That's right, and so we've very, and it's been very tedious. I'll just tell you, we have Ms. Melendez, going through and no, he had a dual credit grade, or no, we had, and so the team at the high school has just been amazing. So yes, they've been tracking this. So, yes.
I just wanted to build upon Ms. Prado's question that she asked earlier. I think she was getting to the point that why the 21 students that we had, we couldn't identify them throughout this past year because we weren't measuring to catch those, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So then.
And this new accountability just came into play though, that's.
In March.
So we couldn't intervene with those 21 students throughout
No,
this
because we
year,
found
didn't
out
know.
all of this was was March.
Back in March.
Right, and
Still
27, right.
made changes in July.
Correct,
We
correct.
won't know until March.
Right, that's right. So hopefully nothing, yes.
And
ma'am.
on this domain 3, this is the one that the state of Texas was in negotiations with the federal government, and it was going back and forth till it was finally decided. So that added another layer of the timing.
Yeah, if you recall last year, the graduation rate was built into index 4.
That's right.
And it only counted for the high school and for the district. So then it was baked into the cake of the overall score. So as long as, hey, you did good enough, then you passed that bar for index 4, you were
Right.
good. Now
Right.
that it's completely exposed and closing the gaps, and there's such a value to the federal side of the accountability piece, now the degree of of importance just went up, tenfold, and making sure that those kids are graduating on time and that we're getting over that hump.
So two other considerations. Number one, in the design of the accountability system, what are they going to look at? Places for growth. So they're not going to necessarily highlight the things we're doing all well, because all of a sudden we all end up with A's at 99.
Right.
It's like, well, yeah, that's something's not right with that, okay? So that's one. The other is the same dynamic and filters you can apply to those that are the difference between going from meets to masters.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a whole other layer here about
Right.
saying, well, maybe we're only 10 kids away from,
Right.
the
Right.
master's level
Right.
here, that, which, I mean, it's about the whole system.
Right.
So,
Right, absolutely.
again, it's just kind of looking at that.
So the one that we did get was our closing the gap area was with our English language proficiency, and that's with our TELPAS tests across the district. And so we were supposed to hit 42, we hit 48, so we exceeded that goal. So, yay.
And our TELPAS are bilingual students.
Yes. And two of the three, in fact, all three of our bilingual cluster elementary schools, they did meet accountability, and two of the three of them were B's, were our highest.
We look at how well we are exiting kids out of the program, are they progressing in the English language acquisition, they test them over listening, reading, writing, speaking. So yeah, that's kind of the goal.
So on this last one is student achievement, and again, we got 0 out of 7. And what this is all at the high school, okay? And again, it's each student group hitting the college, career, military readiness target. So all students, we missed it by 72 students, but look how close we were. 3 more kids in English language learners. 7 more kids in non-continuously enrolled, 26 more kids in eco-divs, 36 more kids, so we were very, very close.
Out of a population of 2,500, yeah, those are low targets to get to the goal.
So this is how we look right now, which each of these, right? 0 to 20, 0 to 5, 0 to 7, right? Now, if you see, we were close, very close in 6 of these, right? We were close, I believe, in 3 of these targets, and then 4. See, we were close in 4, right? The last one. Now let's just pretend we got 3 out of the 20, 2 out of the 5, we keep our 1 out of the 1, our TELPAS, and 2 out of the 7, it would got us a C in domain 3. Now, if we would have had, I believe, but we did calculate if we got the 6, if we would have had like what we said, where we were close, like if we've gotten all 4 instead of just 2, if we've gotten all 6, it would increase, domain 3 would be a 75. So we're really close. We're really close. This is very doable, and as you see, so much of that CCMR, that college, career, military ready, hits in so many of the domains. So I just want to share that the high school, all of us have been very, very working so hard to make sure that we can do, what can we do and what can we improve by 4 snapshot. I've had a lot of guidance from Dr. Flores, and that has been very helpful on where to, what areas, what things I need to leverage. So of course we're looking at, obviously moving all kids in reading and math and all of this, but a lot of this is very, very close. It's very doable for this year to move from a D to a C as a district. So I just kind of wanted to share that with the board. I'm welcome to hear any questions. I know y'all need to eat and needs to do things, but go ahead.
When is the final P submission? Is it in July or is it in the fall?
It depends on what you're submitting.
Right. So certain things in July, I want to say was our something was dual credit classes, like course completion was the June one. Then I know right now we're still getting military, we're getting graduation, all of those right now. Special ed, we're still able to go those. And then I know Sherry at Region 20 had said that we on certain ones we still have till January submission. So we're on top of it. Like I said, we have a team every Monday working on this at the high school.
The one that matters though for accountability purposes, your October, your snapshot.
Oh, definitely.
Is the money.
So we're trying to get everything done by
Last
October
Friday.
26th.
Yeah.
So with that, I was going to turn it over to,
Sure.
Yes.
Just one other, we found out on,
That, so looking back at domain 3 with the graduation,
Mhm.
so domain 3, you have a 4-year graduation standard, lagging indicator, so that the class of 17 is in 18 accountability, and the class of 18 is in 19
So
accountability.
we are.
so we still can
So
make
it's
lagging.
lagging.
Right, so that's why the students who graduated in 2018, that's who we're tracking right now.
Oh, yeah.
And those are the kids that we can already count.
We can
on.
already count.
Yes.
So you could already get your,
You can
We actually have a
already-
good, I don't want to get anyone excited, we
Yeah.
actually do have a number. So
Let's tamper.
let's wait, I don't want to, it's not official
I
yet.
have one more question.
Yeah.
You were saying our bilingual students did really well under this measurements. And I know that we changed to a cluster program.
Yes.
Can you say that that has attributed to the high scores of ESL, or have they always been performing?
I'd have to look before, but I do know, we had no bilingual program when, we finally started at the late exit, and then by us, I know as far as the UCLOS data, looking at, who added value, it was those 3 schools. We can start peeling it apart a little bit more, if it would please the board, but it's just the idea of, targeted instruction. When you have 15 kids and 5 are bilingual, you don't, they get kind of on the side, as opposed, you end up teaching to the 15 and not the 5. So that being more targeted and being very specific with our strategies that affect all kids,
I think
Yeah,
that
we-
big Model X is the proven model for at least
Well,
bilingual ed.
well, and I'll say this, Bryce has had that the longest, and it's been our most sustained, most distinctions, most everything.
Well, it works for our community, because I think every community is different. I think there's dual language, and then there's the early exit model for, that would work with another community, but
Right.
the population in our community, it seems to be that the late exit that helps these kids.
And I would like to
Okay.
take some sort of a deep dive into that at some point,
Okay.
because I wasn't here when that happened, but I know it was an extremely controversial program. It's still controversial if you talk to some people, but I just want, if it's working and it's better, I want to understand that those students are doing a lot better because we did that.
Okay,
So-
I'll be happy.
That should be fine.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
so let's, I want to go down that path a little bit. Okay. So as you think about that, say more, what are you looking for?
Well, I think there was a perception that it was segregation and that it was with a negative connotation that would come with. And so I want to see if this, by grouping them, by doing them in the cluster schools, if those students performed well or better than they had been performing, to make sure that's translated to the community, because right now they don't know that. And so if they can still be told people are segregated and they can believe that and say we're doing that at this level, then I think that's where we need to come in and say, no, actually these students are getting better. It's a better program because of that.
Okay, so here's so we want the data. What you're asking about is how do we get the data that says this decision resulted with, or manifested with these results, and therefore it was good, or it didn't, and therefore we need to reconsider. Okay. So as y'all think about that, because really you're talking about a program. So I'm going to pull back and let's just talk about all programs. Okay. So as you as a board hear about different programs, part of it is kind of the delta plus, delta minus. So in other words, what were the good things that happened here, and what were the things that maybe were not, maybe unintended even consequence. Ultimately, the bottom line is, sometimes in the bottom line we lose the pluses and the minuses. And although you referred to it earlier, we said, well, what's the best match for our kids? Because that's the other thing. It's the pluses, minus, and our kids is part of what that formula is, so that you can begin to talk about that. because sometimes that, the pluses and the minuses get lost. The same thing happens, I'll give you another example, totally different, is with instructional materials. Okay, campuses vote on an instruction, well, fortunately now it's better, you get to choose a variety of things, because guess what, we have a variety of kids. Okay, the one textbook doesn't fit every kid, the one program doesn't fit. With some kids, it's just like, wow, I mean, some of y'all may not relate to this, some of you, excuse me, I won't say that. I remember the days of the SRA reading kits, okay, the bluebirds and the, you know, some of us were little blackbirds, but that's okay, we managed. And so part of that was that SRA kit worked for some kids, but not for every kid. We can almost say that about different programs, but what we're looking for is what's the best match, okay? And to the degree to which we can do that. So it's the same kinds of things that are going in the, so great, because you asked the evidence question, what do we have, what's the pattern here? Those are the kinds of things that make sense now when we start elevating to the board level. It's about, so what does the evidence suggest and what's the data?
The other thing that I think that we could work on and improve on is the approach that we take with how we relay this information or the changes to the community. It matters. When we go out there and really meet with them and have them ask questions, and if we see these things, these changes are coming, it's important that we give them a voice where we can ease their concerns, help justify why the decisions are being made, so that they don't only think that it's only a money decision, because parents don't care about the money, they care about their kids. So then it's important that they understand that the quality of services that they're going to receive is not going to go down or deteriorate, that it's being done with the best intent and the best interest of the student at mind and at heart, and whatever concerns they may have, whether it's a transportation issue, whether it's the quality of certified teachers, because you tell any parent, would you rather have a certified bilingual teacher or an uncertified teacher teaching a bilingual student? And they're going to tell you, well, I'd rather have them certified. Well, great, we have them at that school. Is it okay if we transport those kids to that campus so they can receive a high quality service? And at that point, you may get a different reaction. And then the connotation that, oh, we're segregating kids, which may not necessarily be the case. It'll make the difference. So in many ways, the approach is just as important as the solution.
Absolutely.
And I think the board-led community meetings that we're doing, that's the whole purpose, you know, that we kind of pushed on those to start doing those, because that's the avenue that you engage the community, that you get them involved in the decision making, and that you present your side of the story, and then you hear their input, right?
Yeah.
So that they have a voice in the decision that's made. I think that's what we've lacked all along. I think that's what we're trying to correct. Not that these decisions were bad ones, it's just that the community input was just never there.
Right.
And that's what's been lagging, and so we're trying to fix that problem. I think we're doing
We're going to work on
it.
Well, and I think off that first community meeting, there was already some information on it. They confused TRE and bond.
Right.
It's like they're the same thing. The same thing.
And they confused the percentage of amount of money that we were going to get at the TRE to the percentage of the amount of money we spent on staff.
Right. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's out there, but part of it is understanding and where we can make that match with communication. Absolutely, it's not our target. So we have an activity to help us transition. Want you to think about what Linda has shared. What questions do you have about, actually, what are you taking away from the presentation on the accountability? Okay? And to help you think through that, we're going to ask you to step to the back of the room and get some food and come over and feed yourself as well as your brain. And then in a few minutes, we'll debrief that question.
How generous.
That's a good one. That's a good question to ponder while we.
I like that too.
Very hands-on.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, we were just talking about everything.
I'm out. I did mine already.
Yeah, this one's on, but yes, it's on, no, that was, it's on, this one. Yeah, accountability. Accountability is the main thing.
So one of the things that I was thinking,
It's a different grade school.
it is, right? It is.
and so one of the things that I was thinking is, can we make it in a way, because that do the people want to hear that? Okay, all right, that's what I was thinking. So then how do we simplify the new accountability measures and why we end up the way we did, in a way that they can understand? And then take the questions and the answers. One thing is to Right.
We gotta have something. For those questions that say, why are we doing that?
Right, and that's what and that's why we're already talking about we look at how we distract kids. Now, I already told you which one we have. It's gotta be something, so we were at 2, how do we make sure that we get measured at a 92% clip? Because if you're 52, they're gonna reach you, it's really high, the threshold's gonna get higher. So we have to, how do we have to add that? How do we have to add this? Just because we're gonna get really hard with the instructional strategies and how to get this master. Because it's saying, oh, we just need to sure this master.
Yeah.
And it is in certain sense. Yeah, we now look at the teaching and learn to.
That's how we'll talk about some of the grade schools, how that model, can help.
And so when do we have the talk with system of grade schools?
Tuesdays. High level discussion, so we're not gonna get. We're not gonna get to like this level.
We gotta equate systems of grade schools to accountability. Commissioners feel the whole accountability thing is based on that shit. It's all about the premise, right?
That's right.
Putting more kids
In high performing, that's it.
I'm just looking at it, that's it. That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
So everything that he's trying to do, every measure that we're trying to put kids in AC.
What I want is to make sure that whatever messaging we're giving to the community doesn't change and it stays consistent and simple to understand. Yes, correct. So because
I don't know that,
No, we need to have a meeting.
we have, I don't want to get up there and present information, one, that's not backed by administration.
Right. We're already having the same thing.
Sorry.
Just
get in line.
Geez, that's a cordon bleu? That's actually rare. They should have saved that one for you, sir. After That's legendary. It reminded me of that rib that the Flintstones used to be around. That's how we went to. Keep that the roar. He took on a challenge. And so they really sort of, it's a crazy word. I was like, that's what you call it. That's going to roll around in your system for a decade, sir. That's what I'm saying. Just, I don't know if I can that word.
This is special.
Hey, I'm telling you. It's like literally that's about it. We can feed you, that's about it.
I know, I completely forgot.
I didn't want to make you feel bad, so I put the water burger, that's like, for all the heat you get for the bilingual blues and whatnot,
Well, I saw you, but I
The thing is, those
I
are
was getting
beautiful
into your
programs,
house.
but we're lacking is just the messaging and the approach.
cleaning up, waiting up so loud. I put the phone on the phone and said, I knew what it was. I just closed your eyes and then, so, called and I saw her, something wrong with both of your songs.
whatever they're doing, so.
No, I'm at the house. Then I remember your phone.
Do we have time for it? been running back and forth. I had a board meeting yesterday over there. And then this way today, I'll be here tomorrow, and then I have to go back to Thursday.
Wow.
It's literally everything else. I
So-
just wake up and I'm like, where's San Antonio? And I said,
Did they get you a replacement yet?
They did, they found that, and they did all the same. They got in on, they checked my in, they didn't want it. You don't ever have to accept this. But they were good. Yeah. I'm sad.
Leaving good to come to good, man. Tell us.
No, I know that there's so much room for improvement here. There's a lot of things that we did. Fix a lot of things that are needed for a while. So. Think about it. Well, I'm definitely going to take this sense of urgency. Who cooked this?
No Cadillacing?
Well, no. Did the cafeteria do this?
They used to be here, but they got closed over the summer, so I'm not sure which campus cooks it now.
I think,
Transported.
I'm wondering if it's Carmen. Carmen's usually the one who's
In Carmen's where?
shepherd.
Shepherd?
Right next door.
Well, that's close, huh?
I did my schedule with the campus staff.
You don't want to.
I think it's key.
Y'all should come more often, we don't get this. Not every day thing.
That's why I said it comes with a built-in nap after.
To nourish our brain so we can think,
That's
right?
right, for that question.
What was it?
I'm thinking.
We can tell.
What do the kids have for homecoming? What do they play? What is it? Is it? Find out. I want to say this.
Did everybody get rain today?
A lot of the
How about?
center-
It got dark. It was horrible. I was on the road.
At least you don't have a mosquito problem.
Not now.
No, you don't understand when you live in I know San Antonio mosquitoes. These ain't San Antonio mosquitoes. Or the other place, but like as soon as you open the door to the house, they fly in like 40 of them.
Wow.
Or the car, you open the car, boom, they're in your vehicle.
Wow.
I was telling Belinda earlier, my poor baby, she's 2 and she just says, mosquitoes, mosquitoes. Or she gets bitten up so bad. And it's like, oh, so yeah, it's been a rough season this season. It's just been raining so much and the water's been, yeah.
I'm hearing it may be a really cold winter this winter.
I hope so. We'll kill them off.
Yeah, that's
Parts of the country are already getting snow.
Yes.
When's the last time we got snow? It was like 3 years ago, right?
No, last year. Last year?
Last year? It wasn't.
We got some.
How was it? January? Well, no, it was December. Just a lot of nice little, little cats.
Oh, we're excited.
Did we stop and have snow there?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The whole city shut down.
That doesn't take much, snow-wise.
They don't know how to drive.
Can't drive in this weather for sure, right? Like Texans are like, oh, you can't have any cold weather. Shut down the highways.
Thankful we didn't have a hurricane right us this year. Florida's getting out of
So we want to encourage you to continue to eat. The good news is y'all can take turns in responding so that people can continue to enjoy this meal. It's absolutely wonderful. So what are you taking away from the accountability section? Either something that validated what you already knew, something you didn't know, or something that's still kind of rolling around in your head.
Maybe that it's encouraging that the numbers, and we were so close, and like Ms. Costco said, it's doable. It's not like we're way at the bottom and we're never going to get there. We're just a couple of steps away, and they're already working on everything that needs to be done. So it does look promising for our schooling. We should be getting better grades, a lot better grades the next time around.
So it's attainable, it's within reach, and in
Yes.
some areas maybe even we've exceeded that reach.
It does help. It makes us hopeful that we're heading in the right direction where we did start something that we almost made it, but we still need a little bit more work.
I can speak to that as well. I think what it's done also is not only, I agree with Ms. Guerra, we'll get there, and I feel comfortable. I'm not going to jinx it, but I think next year I think we'll be okay. But I think it also has shown us or given us an insight on what is it that we're not doing and how do we improve it. And I think Ms. Castro has done a lot of work on that. There's things that we probably never, like she said, nobody looked at economically disadvantaged. And so we're now identifying areas that we should be looking at, we should be monitoring. And that's only going to help us get better. But I think it's not passing has really brought to light some of the areas we need to be addressing.
So it's given us opportunities to look at growth areas.
Right.
I think it's kind of shown that we were kind of already on the right track. It hadn't come to fruition yet as far as some of the processes in place, but the board instituting master level goals was already kind of putting the preparation out there at the campuses that our standards were higher. And so when that accountability came in, it's kind of something we expected and knew was going to happen. I don't think the impact was what we thought it was going to be on our district. But overall, I mean, I think it affected a lot of districts, not just ours. But the takeaway is that our staff was already kind of in the mode of making changes to the standard of education here at South San. And I think continuing that standard is going to take us to that next level. I don't really see this as an issue. I have the confidence in our administration that we're going to overcome this little hiccup and the IR schools will be out by next year. I just don't want to have the C as a standard.
Right.
No.
I want to have a higher standard than that so that we achieve more than just a C. But I feel the utmost confidence in our staff and our personnel that we can come together and make this happen.
So under promise and over deliver.
That's right.
I said that earlier.
That's the city way. That's the city way, okay. Good.
My takeaway was on that form, that is required. I thought it was required for every family to fill out when you had a child in the system, as far as what you make, so that they can see if you're free and reduced, even though we're not free, even though we're a free district. That was opening to me, that can't make the parents turn in what they don't want to turn in. And so that's my takeaway, is advocating for that, speaking to my community and saying that it affects, what they don't turn in does affect the district.
And how important that choice they make. Bottom line, that choice.
And I'll tell you what's important, is the relationships that the campus personnel has with their community.
Yep.
So you're talking about the secretaries, you're talking about data clerks, you're talking about principals. When you say, hey, we need those forms, or tell your mama, we need to get those forms in, or whatever, they'll respond to you. Because they have a built-in relationship.
So who's the first district person to be able to see generally?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
And I think also we need to offer help to them, because a lot of parents don't have time. They work, they come home, they have kids, and they don't want to spend the evening filling out forms. So I think, and I know our staff has a lot to do already, but if it's going to mean making a difference on the success of our kids, I think we need to take time to say, look, if you don't have time to do it, let me help you, just bring it in. Make yourself available to the parents.
One of the things that has been done before is that you open up certain campuses and computer labs. If you have an online registration program, then you could build in the survey in a very easy way where they'll be able to just, based on the question, based on the family, you have size of family, once you do this, do you make more or less than this, once you do that, then the survey's filled. That's one way. The other thing is opening up the campuses on certain evenings and just say, you need help? We're here to help support it. And we're here to help you fill out some of these activities and to help you.
And we've got, what, 2 parent service centers, offices, so I mean, that's, we're not doing that now to do that. What they talking about, but, yeah, evening and late night, you're planning to do that, we're going on the weekend. I think what was, I didn't realize, I knew this was a complicated structure, but I didn't know how many small kernels went into it, and how much discretion some of those small kernels have to make the larger, oversimplified C. And I just, one of the next meetings we're having is to help translate that into, for the community members to understand all the different components that go into that, how much, old technology or the data not being unified amongst all people can really shift things around. And so in actuality, we may not even have that grade, it might be something different, but because of the way we're doing things,
I'm thinking like the closing the gaps, I think the minimum number for, if you're going to be counted for that is 10. Yeah, at least 10. Then that counts as a minimum group, so that holds you accountable for that specific subpopulation. So yeah, it's important.
So what I'm taking away from this is, I know that, I'm not sure the rest of the board members, when Delinda talked about we were this many kids short in maybe closing the gap it wasn't specific to the high school. What wasn't specific to the high school was specific to the district, correct? So when you break it down by campus, it may not be 18 kids. It may be 1 at this campus. It may be 2 at this other campus. It may be 5 at this other campus, but it totals to be 18 for the district. So it's more doable at the campus level because, they'll know which is that 1 child or 2 or 5. But I'm also taking away from this is that everyone, from the bus drivers to, everyone needs to be, how should I say, informed in an educated way about what counts. Every child counts, in other words, every child. So if there's a child coming to us, that child is coded many different ways. Okay, and that's how important it is because that's our accountability system. It can't just be a number, it can't just be a name. We got to know this child is so-and-so in so-and-so grade, maybe economically disadvantaged, maybe not, maybe Hispanic, maybe white, maybe African. You know what I'm saying? They must identify the child in many different ways because that's once as many people that can know that, then it will align to what is being coded there, you know what I'm saying? And you could start identifying quickly.
You know what simplifies all of that? When we just focus on the main motto of the North Star ordinance, that student outcomes don't change until adult behavior
Adult behavior
changes. And
changes.
so
Yes.
if you apply that to every single person who
Yes.
works for this district, and they take it to heart, that whatever they're doing matters and it makes a difference in the outcome of that student, the bus driver, the
Everyone.
paraprofessional, custodian, the
Yes.
cafeteria worker, board members, superintendent, every top to bottom, then everybody starts understanding that they have a hand in the success of every child. So, we're gonna push that, man, for
Yeah,
sure.
right,
And then looking at those goals through the meets and masters lens.
right, exactly.
Mhm.
So, as a parent, what words don't I want to hear from a staff person, a district person?
I do not want to hear.
I do not want to hear it.
That's not how that works.
Okay, thank you, that's a derivative of it, you're absolutely right.
We don't have time to speak to you right now.
Oh,
I can't,
oh,
anything with.
that's
I
not my
can't.
job.
That's
That's
not-
not, how many times have you heard that?
Okay, I'll only ask for one, okay?
I'm at lunch right
Oh, my God.
now. I've heard that specifically.
I don't have time.
What teacher?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, but that's not the way we do it.
it's not the way we do it.
Okay, well, that's, I mean, so
I need to-
we sometimes have to think about that in terms of, when that person comes to ask a question, it's for them a question, it's their first time question generally. Now, I get it, we're in the same business. It may be the 10 millionth question, the same question over and over again, okay? And it's like, that's why I'm kind of getting, it's like the Charlie Brown, you just hear wah, 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 kind of thing. So how is it that we take to heart that whole idea that it's critical to the communication about how do we explain that, how do we take time? The other thing you have to be careful is don't over talk it. If you over talk it, it's kind of like you're wearing me down. Nobody likes the email that goes screen, you're scrolling, and it's kind of like, afterwards, we get to the bottom, what's the bottom line?
Yes, keep it short and sweet.
Yeah.
And it's like the
And
first
meaningful.
time, that question is always, you act like it's the first time you've heard it, as a person answering it. And that's hard.
The other is a polish piece. Did that help? That's a follow-up question back. Okay, that you give information. Did that answer the question? Did that help? Is there any other question you may have? I mean, it's just like, instead of like, okay, we're done. Next.
Did I answer your question? I think another thing they don't like hearing is, what do you want? Instead of, how can I help you?
Well, you know, one thing that we can do, and it's important, I think that it's important that we gain a level of consistency with how we provide customer service.
Yes.
In the day and age when a parent has choice, and they're literally moving into your backyard within your
Yes.
boundaries, you can no longer keep them at the gates, they are inside. So then you say, what's going to set us apart? What's going to be the difference? It ain't about performance, it's about choice. And if you're going to give me bad customer, what do you do when you get treated bad customer service in a restaurant or a thing? You never go back because you're a customer. You're a main customer. You
Get on
expect-
Yelp. A lot of people want to go there.
You put it on Yelp, right? And you get one review, you get a 1-star review. Well, in the same way that it's important that we develop consistent measures for quality customer service. But here's the difference. The thing is that we can't also, as a leadership team, just bring it and drive it down to them and say, hey, listen, people up front, this is what you're going to do now. I think more powerful is it when we bring every single one of them together and we talk about what is it that we could develop together. And so they can have a level of investment and a voice in how you're going to hold each other mutually accountable. And then you develop those standards, and then guess what? When somebody's not meeting those standards and we're getting reports of complaints of bad customer service, it's going to be like, you committed to this. You helped develop these expectations for yourself and for each other.
So, remember, parallel process? Go ahead.
Before we go any further, did you have something you wanted to add, sir? That I thought you'd have-
Sorry, Mr. Slogan.
No, that's
First
okay.
time I can see.
Didn't mean to interrupt your chewing.
Today. I'm going to piggyback on what Lou said. My takeaway is that I see this district and administration very astute to recognize, excuse me, to recognize what needs to be done. And they were ahead of the curve. We were ahead of the curve. But that wasn't enough. I mean, they recognized that, yeah, we can improve, and they're putting processes in place to improve even more. I mean, that's my main takeaway. That's kind of stuff I look for. And I want to piggyback on that. So actually asking a question. Are we doing any type of customer service training?
The answer is, I don't know. I haven't officially started until
Okay.
October the 15th, but I can guarantee you. I mean, it is the 9th, I'm still 6 days early. But this is what do you have an answer on that?
Yes, it
All
was
right.
part of our strategic design, and I believe we started with the campus secretaries?
Yeah, it was district-wide, all secretaries, all support staff,
Yes.
clerks, everybody.
And the entire
Everybody went.
technology department.
And the whole, and any directors that wanted their whole department to go also went.
Right, led by Region 20.
Yes, it was a Region 20 training.
I will tell you, there are some services out there that provide customer service hotlines. And what they do is they go look at your curbside appeal, they call the phone to see how you answer, they go and ask for questions up front to see if they're getting the right kind of support, and then they just give you the results back if we're taking care of business or not. And that may not be a bad approach to take, just to ensure that we're doing things consistently and strong.
So in support of that, remember parallel process? We want to start governance? So what is a parallel process? Remember? What happens in the boardroom trickles
Trickles down
to
to
the
the
classroom.
bottom.
Okay? So a rhetorical question, which means you don't answer this one, is, so what are you doing for customer service?
We have to model.
Right. Don't answer it. But I mean, that's because I mean, how you interact and how you interact with the community, how you interact with each other.
Is what we can expect
In return.
out there.
You're sending that message. This is what the standard is. Okay. So in meetings, if we're at the center and she's talking and rolling my eyes and oh God, well, that's not very respectful. Okay. I mean, that sets a standard. It's not okay. And that's happening. Just saying those little things, because that's what people want. They don't care about what you say. They watch what you do.
And like right now, we have the computer open, but look what we're looking at, exactly what y'all are looking at. So that the interpretation of some could be, ooh,
They're playing games.
they're playing.
What's the high score?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's parallel process.
Mhm.
Okay? So lots of good things. Anything else, just before we leave this accountability that y'all want to final close of comments?
Yes, sir.
I usually simplify that, because we have a tendency, and I'm talking about we here, but we have a tendency to overcomplicate things. With me, it's more like the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated. Simple as that, very simple.
And that's really the core of most
Yeah.
customer service.
Exactly.
That's exactly why I want to be treated.
Right.
And it goes back to I, as we learned in most of our governments.
If I want you to treat me with respect, I'm going to respect you too.
Mhm.
So do we want that in our classrooms?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah! That would be your answer, sorry.
We need the cues, sir.
Sorry.
We're already digesting.
That's like,
But
oh,
we
what's
have,
gonna
a,
be?
we have a solution for that.
Okay. Yeah.
Because truthfully, that's really, isn't that some of the issues we're dealing with in our schools in terms of bullying, in terms of, whatever is happening is people are, it's a lack of respect, they're not treating each other.
Right.
So,
I'll tell you, one of the things that may complicate things though is when you have long-standing, experienced veteran folks that have been in the district for a long time.
Mhm.
They are the backbone of who you are. You grew up with them, graduated with them. They are, by all intents and purposes, South San. And when they struggle with the changes, the update, the new way of doing things, that that is the sensitive part.
Mhm.
That is the part that you need to handle with kid gloves and really, because they have a voice too. They have an investment and a stake, and a lot of times they say, well, yeah, well, you're the new guy, you're gonna come in here, where you're gonna be here a couple of years and whatever. I get that completely. But this is where I think that the commitment from the entire team and that the messaging needs to be consistent, that this is what we want, this is what we're gonna work for, and what we're gonna work for. It's important that that gets sent out. And then it's treated the right way. This is why giving them a voice and an opportunity to have their input on it matters.
Absolutely. Here's something that sometimes we don't often consider. So trailblazers are great. They're the folks that get out there and, uncharted waters, and, it's kind of like, but it isn't without risks, or some people certainly have the scars to show it. Okay? And sometimes we categorize people who over time get stuck as being kind of burned out, or just sort of like, they're stuck in the rut. I'll just, in Region 21, it sounds like, oh yeah, you remember so-and-so? Yeah, how long did they last? Oh, okay. Oh, you know what, this is the new, yeah, okay, great, yeah. I can finish the words for you.
Yes, we'll outlast them.
Yeah. In our experience, a lot of those folks were really at one time trailblazers. It just got weird. And so sometimes that changes when you reframe it.
Gotta bring that spark back.
That's exactly. So what
United.
I often think about is the embers are still there. They just appear to be a little cold. Okay, so how do we fan them back and feed it, because it's still there? And part of that is again, treating them with respect. Finding out, because sometimes it could be a perceived injustice or whatever it was enough to make them, that fire kind of back down, exactly. Yeah. And it's the same thing. It's interesting when we do presentations skills, we talk about 99% of the questions are really friendly questions, even though 10% of them don't sound so friendly. Okay? There's really only about 1% that are really like, oh my God, back down the hatches, here it comes. Okay? So part of that is figuring out what is it that they're trying to tell me, what is it, and it's the delivery issue.
And it's figuring out, because I may use one word, and I'm from a different part of Texas, and it can mean something totally different here in San Antonio. It can mean something totally different in different parts of San Antonio. But so asking that clarifying, now tell me a little bit, like I did, tell me a little bit more about what you're wanting. And so I can be on target with what I deliver to you. And just keep digging till you know absolutely for sure that's what it is. Because otherwise it's like opening a gift and going, ooh, that's not what I wanted, and then that person's not happy.
The added challenge we have these days with social media is something that is not a friend of mine. It's called autocorrect. Yeah. And if you were in such a hurry, you send something out, it's like, oh my gosh. Okay, and somebody gets it, the word has been changed, something totally different, and it's like, oh my God, flip back, I can't. Okay, it's like, and then, oh, I'm sorry, it's just, autocorrect. Yeah, right. Okay, let me autocorrect you.
Because it could be something as simple as sent in a text, and it says autocorrect changed it to holding. What kind of interpretations on holding, right? But I meant bolding. But it auto-corrected to hold instead of bold font. So I mean, that could be a huge misunderstanding. Thank goodness we're good with each other, because that's just, you never know, it happens. So transition, that's our next step. I know you guys enjoyed some wonderful chicken. I'm gonna get mine, and Ed's gonna get a little bit more. Also, we have an activity for you. So we have these fabulous books.
Don't worry about the color, everything's the same on the inside. Please don't open them until everybody has one. And what you're going to do is you're going to thumb, when I say go, you're going to thumb through it and pick a couple of questions, I think 2, right Ed? 2 questions that really intrigue you. And after you select your 2 questions, then we're going to have you stand up, find someone to ask. You're not going to interview them, so I'll ask you my 2 questions, and you'll ask me your 2, and then we'll do that a couple of rounds, and just try to get to. I don't want to spoil it about what kind of questions are in there. Go ahead and flip through it. Find your couple of questions.
So a couple more ground rules, hang on before you flip out. The person always has the option to pass,
Oh yes.
in which case you have to ask another question. Okay, so you get to keep the booklet with you, but this isn't about putting anybody on the spot. The other is, this is also an opportunity for you to be approachable. And I say that because as a former middle school teacher, how you ask questions and intonation, okay, you can take a very nice question and make it just dripping with sarcasm as a teenager, okay? And it becomes so accusatory, and it's like, oh my God. And then they come home and say, well, Mom, all I asked was, how old were they? You know? But you can imagine that question turned to another, is different, okay? So it's a chance to model the approach.
So go ahead and open your booklets, find a couple of questions, and that reserved question, just in case someone passes. And then we'll give an opportunity for you to get up and find a partner.
Yeah, we're going to do like 3 rounds of this. So when you're ready, resist.
And we'll call, we're going to call time?
Yeah, we'll
It's
call
time to change.
time. We'll go round 1's over, and it's time for round 2.
They're pretty safe questions.
Sorry, buddy.
We probably have more room up here, so if you guys want to come up here.
Or where in the room, any place in the room.
Or somewhere in the room, and I need to move that cord so no one trips over it. And let's go ahead and get up, find a partner. The person that has the shortest hair in the partnership will go first. Ask their question first for this round. My hair shorter than yours? For this round.
Do we just find a partner?
Just find a partner.
All right. This one's start. Sure. All right. You can ask me a question, not you a question.
We have the shortest hair.
I know, right?
Confusing part. Okay, what is your name and what does your name
Right, and know that this should be more like you ask me. When you go and we noticed that the name of the activity is called Just Ask, and none of them are
Okay,
just
you
prompt.
can turn it into a question.
English
Okay,
major.
all right.
He's the one who got me on the technical stuff, It's like, wait a minute. This is.
I'm ready. So what did y'all say about the shortest hair?
When I go on vacation, I like to rest. And I don't get enough time to rest because typically when we go on vacation, there's an activity. And I want to go, so it's like, we go to Panama City, and then I go sit, and it's like, I just want to go, I've been driving 17 hours, and being at work, we just got there, and then it's like, can I just lie down and watch TV in the hotel? I'll be happy, I'll be ecstatic. I was like, oh, there's the beach, and then we have the kids movie, and then there's the luau thing, and it's like, we gotta schedule some stuff. And then I come back from the vacation, so then I was like a couple of days later. that's me. But my favorite thing to do is rest. I don't get too much.
So somebody offers a little stress.
Yeah, I know, right? Sometimes I call that going to the bathroom. I hate breath. Can everybody just stay away?
So to this work.
I love. All right, my turn for you. So, what are one of the strongest collaborators in our organization?
Very good. But personally, success that I experienced that you have experienced is just setting. Well, yeah.
I think it starts to sound great.
Yeah, we would do to that.
That's it?
I can answer your question. Just by being aligned
is actually a family name, so we figure out so we each have different names, but we're all.
So where did you that was coming down from now? We're like, hey, we're down here. Really gonna do on top of these other 12 things you already got me doing. And I think
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and close what you're talking about. Hopefully you've had time to have two questions each way.
Always ask me about that.
And
We elaborated on one.
you elaborated, that's perfect. So find a new partner. New partner.
All right, let's go.
New partner.
Okay.
Wait, don't start yet.
All right.
New
I
partners.
got you. You go first.
New partners.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Somewhere up there.
Okay, the person that lives closest to this spot starts.
What?
Go
Who
ahead,
lives
buddy.
closest to where we are right now?
Who lives close? Me.
Closest, they're
Me
gonna
currently
go
have 3 hours
first.
away.
Start your question.
Second, sir.
Okay.
Whoever lives closest to this spot will start first in your group of 2.
Yeah.
Ask
When I'm
two
alone.
questions.
Where did he go?
Yeah, I really like to get away from it all. Like lying down, get some quiet time, and I really like to watch a lot of podcasts. Turn his head up.
Did I like the
Get my mind away from anything that's work related, because anytime there's anything else there is no work. And so just getting a lot of that quiet time. Feed my brain.
Some of the first college students that I bring to my work.
Always myself. That's what I like. So here's one for you. So what are one of the strongest components of our organization?
So when I was in Portland, I tried to get people there. To get like
I could agree with that. Finished product. I love seeing finished product. So like I'm interested. So whatever my finished product is, related, I like to go see it. Or not. That's the correct answer. But you know, I kind of follow through, just like
Folks have a lot of pride.
personal success that you have experienced, what it is.
Yeah, we're good. You want to follow up? You want to ask something else? Sources of joy for me. Really? Spending time with my wife. It's a big best friend.
Okay, go ahead and close the conversation. Get your last thought.
She does
And we're gonna do one more round. New partner, any questions you want from the book, limit it to 2 unless you have extra time, and then you can be an overachiever and have 3. But find a new partner and we'll start just as a rule.
You want to? You want to start? Oh, wait, is it long hair, short hair, closest to? Oh, sorry.
Can't say my kids.
Did you already have?
Alex.
Okay, Sarah, good?
It's quality.
All right, who we got?
I got you.
Yes.
So this person, the person that starts will be the person that has served longest on a board in either the capacity of a superintendent or the board member.
Okay.
That's the person that's in the first.
Well,
I think I read.
So something on your
Control for like their, you can just talk to them. Yeah, there's our advanced team, and part of that is yes,
Something you want to think about.
Well, she's brought that to my I'm the one that
worry. Well,
and I do it.
There's a big transition.
There you go. And it'd be more calls.
Yes. Very good.
Baseball games strong. Baseball games.
I think that's a strength. Prepares So a personal success that you have experienced, what does it mean to you?
it's my grandma's.
Okay, go ahead and close your conversation.
And I thought
Finish that last sentence.
can't just get.
And we have 2 more steps. The next step is to go back and to thank every partner you were with.
That's true.
That's step number 1. After you've done that, you can go back to your seats and then we'll do step number 2 for follow-up.
What was that?
Step number 1, thank all of your partners.
Thank you so much for participating, ma'am. Thank you so much for participating. That was great.
Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Thank you again for your questions.
Great conversation.
Absolutely.
Learned a little bit about you.
All right.
So as we all so famously loved in Lone Star Governance, who would like to go first to share something that you learned? Yes, ma'am.
I learned that my first question that I asked of the 3 participants that talked to me, I guess 2 out of the 3, when I find time to be alone, what do I like to do, was my question. So, including myself, we love to read. So reading was a commonality there. Okay, and I wasn't surprised, I guess I could say that. Yeah, so, and then of course the source of joy for many of us is family. So commonality there.
So commonality of reading and joy
Enjoy
with family.
or just doing the little things in life.
Who would like to share next? Yes, ma'am.
I guess, and I've said it before, that even though we seem to be different, when it comes down to it, we're all very much alike. We want to help give of ourselves, expect more from our kids and the community. And I guess that's one of the reasons everybody decided to be on the board, decided to run it, and were elected. So I guess in the end, that we're more alike than we are different.
So in the end, you're more alike as a board than different. Beautiful. Who would like to be next?
So I think what I learned is that good parenting is something that was a common thread. And that you don't know everything about people, even if you work with them and deal with them on a daily basis. It's not until you try to get personal that you learn some new things about them. So, good job.
I'll go next.
Yes, sir.
So I asked a lot about what were some of the strongest components of our organization, and the running theme was that there's a lot of love and loyalty for the district and for the area, that the people that are from here are very proud people. They care about their community, they care about their schools and their district, and it runs deep. And I even heard the word family was thrown in there. I mean, just like family, right? It's not easy. We're all born into each other. We're not leaving each other. We might not get along about everything, but and there may be some disputes or whatever. But at the end of the day, everybody still ends up coming together, and nobody's leaving because there's a sense of loyalty to the place and to the community. And I appreciate that so much because just privileged to be and happy to be a part of it. So that was the running theme that I got on the responses.
Good, thank you. Yes, sir.
With me, the thing that I got is the trust among us, because some of the questions that were asked, I mean, they were personal, I mean, on that level. But to convey that to somebody else, I mean, if it was a stranger asking that, I don't know if I'd answer it, but I mean, trusting these people is different. So to me, it's the trust that we have developed.
So responses reflect that trust.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And I found that everyone here has pride in their accomplishments, no matter how small or how big. And echoing what Lefty said, a lot of pride also has to do with the family, families that they've raised, their successes, and the future. So I think we all have that in common.
So it's pride about success, pride about family, pride about our work.
For me, what I learned was the questions I chose were personal, and so I got to know them. One of the questions was, what have you done as part of your career? And so that was, I didn't know, so listening to someone else's experiences of what they've done was opening.
So listening to others' experiences gives us a different insight.
And something I find so interesting was I asked the question about the name, and we use each other's names all the time, but we don't know some of the backstory and how it connects to family or experiences in school or our connectivity to our family in that way. So I thought everyone had a really beautiful answer to that question.
That is a very special question because you can learn so much about a person through their name.
Anyone else? Maybe anybody else?
Anybody want to add anything?
My three partners were all women, and first two want to have grandkids. The one that had grandkids wants to go on a cruise. So I think that's the evolution for me.
Oh, cruise sounds really good. With grandkids and without grandkids.
Disney cruise with kids, I'm telling you.
Good.
First was, okay, so that was the question you just answered. Here's the next question. What did you learn about yourself? Who would like to go first?
I had to think about the question, even though I had read through them, I kind of had to think about it once it was asked to me, like you know, because of the sincerity of the answer, right? I mean, you're not trying to just throw some BS out there. So if you want to be sincere, you really got to think about that question that you're being asked and answer it in a way that's going to portray what you're really feeling. So I think you kind of learn what's important on some of these questions by just thinking about the answer. Think about yourself.
So as you play that tape about the response, you have to filter through to what you choose to share
Yeah.
and what's important to you.
I think it's also because you have so much that you want to share, but yet you don't want to open the book all the way.
So you want to kind of, for the, I guess, the reading book kind of thing, you want to hook your reader, but you don't want to
Right.
have it go, okay, no.
That's true, I want to know more, so. You got it.
What I learned about myself is exactly what Louisa said, is some of the questions were personal. And I trust you enough to share it, but I don't think I would have shared it just with anybody.
So again, a reflection of trust.
And I learned that I was genuinely interested in what they were telling me. I kind of wanted to know more. Like you're saying, you know, tell me more.
So when I was calling time, it's like, hey.
No, wait, we didn't.
You got into one question.
Right, yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that,
Yes,
because it was genuine.
genuine.
I just want to add to that. I felt exactly the same way. And when I first got here, we did the training in, was it Galveston? Right. And that was a bonding opportunity for us because I was brand new here and I didn't know some of these folks. And we had some personal time. We talked about our backgrounds and our families. And that to me makes a big difference because when you have that trust and you have that background, you're working together, even the disagreements can be more respectful once that background's there.
So the more you get to know somebody, the more you see them as an individual and less as a non-entity.
Right, or less as, you know, you're just on that side of it, yeah.
Before we all start on the road, we're people first. And once you can see the person as a person, you can get past the issues that you may not get along with. For me, I learned, I really like to understand people and their core and their root motivations, why they do what they do. Why do these people come and serve of their time and their effort and put up with making difficult decisions that half the community is going to agree with and half the community is not? You know, then you really understand that there's that passion. And that's what I saw in people when I was asking them these questions. So I really like to understand where people are coming from and their root motivations, because it speaks volumes about the perspective that they take and the actions that they take, especially as a board. So, yeah, that was very interesting to me.
And leads to an understanding of their character.
All day, every day.
Anyone else?
And I think leads to their character and to the integrity, which leads to the bigger picture of when you're looking at that integrity instrument through Lone Star Governance, working as a team to do that self-evaluation.
So a takeaway from me observing you guys is a shift in energy in the room. Yeah, that's kind of like, okay, facilitators in search of a group because y'all want to stop talking. It's energy producing. And it's almost like it's a missing part of board work because it's not what you talk about at board meetings, or you're going, okay, so quorum here, gotta be careful, okay? I know it's personal, but somebody may think it's school business and, you know, that kind of messes with your head. And we believe very strongly in road trips because there's something to be in a car enclosed for several hours with people, you know, and
Driving to every
Yeah, you're either going to kill them or you're going to live with them.
Hey, one of us ain't coming back.
So now we all have an apartment together. I'm sorry, now we all have an apartment together.
oh, that's a whole MTV system.
But it's so true that you learn so much, but just the casual interaction, and you get to know someone in a different level.
Absolutely. So, we're going to ask a level of trust.
Oh, I didn't get to say mine.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me.
As a facilitator for that section, it was hard for me to break, because I said, Ed, now. So that's going to be on the speaker, Ed, now. Because what we saw, and what I saw going me, it was so genuine, and you were so happy talking to each other. It's like, I don't want to break this because it's so rare in a board setting that you get to have those kind of conversations. And you were learning so much, and then your insight, I love how you debriefed it. Nobody's name was used. It was the thread. I heard, 2 of 3 say this. So it was just beautiful to see it in that way, building that unity.
Absolutely. The takeaways were much bigger than the actual topic of conversation.
Did you have one more thing to add?
Yes, and that's why it's so important for us to get away to the conferences. We've been criticized that we don't need to go, that we can get it online, each one looking at a computer and learning about what's going on. But it's so necessary to get away. We've been like at a big old fire pit in Galveston, sitting around and talking to late hours, and we were freezing, weren't we? At that time, it was cold, but we were still sitting outside talking, and we did learn a lot about the rest of the people on the board. So it's a lot easier to work with them here when everything is, the attention of everybody is on us. At least we feel a little bit more at ease with people we can trust and people we actually like.
There's some connections that are established that you otherwise don't have in that once a month or 2 or 3 times a month meeting. It doesn't do it.
And that learning together is so valuable. So when you go to conferences, you come back to the board meeting, you talk about things that you've learned. That is extremely powerful. And then decide as a board in a properly called meeting, where a quorum is present, you're talking about things that matter most, your takeaways from those meetings.
Absolutely. So we're going to ask a level of trust as we go to the next level. Okay. We're going to ask you to leave stuff there. You don't need pens, you don't need anything. If you'll just take your chairs, and we're just going to do a circle here. Trust me.
You want to that I won't pull it from one. Well, step.
Is this like an AAD?
I didn't say anything.
Atone for your sin.
Yeah.
Come to Jesus. Yeah. It's a working blue point.
My name is Lucas.
And you're a recovering trustee. A recovering superintendent.
Yes.
So what we'd like to take this opportunity is, notice the theme was just ask. Okay. The district is at a really unique and wonderful position right now. You have a family that you've invited to join the team. Anytime a team changes, you have to renorm. Okay. Anytime you get a new trustee, you have to renorm. He's trying to figure out, y'all are trying to figure out, right choice, not right choice, or, what did the people send us? Those are things that go through our head. So we're post-vote from last week. So it's an opportunity to let's have some conversation about the stuff beyond the interview. Okay, we don't want to revisit the interview. That's already done. That's in the past. But kind of what's the future? What are y'all thinking? This is an opportunity to go around and talk about the work. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to start with the recovery superintendent first. To kind of talk about, okay, so, it's whatever. The reason we do it this way is it's
They're
a level
closer,
of
we can
trust.
hit 'em. I'm just kidding.
Parallel process.
Customer
service.
Starts from the top.
Starts from the top.
In the classroom.
That's right.
There's one
No, but, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm just very excited for there's so much potential to the district, and there's so many foundational pieces that have been put in place. And me personally, I just feel like I have a brand new puzzle. Like, I'm excited about that. And it's gonna take a lot of, there's a community side to it, there's a trust building side to it that we need to reestablish with the community. There's a healing that needs to happen with whether there's division on the board, whether there's a division between the board and the administration, whatever the cases are that happen, all of those pieces are pretty fixable. Because at the end of the day, I really think that everybody here just wants what's best for the district. Now, what that looks like is different. Everybody comes from a different perspective. And my job, the way I feel coming in, is that my job is to help bring everything together. Because it's a powerful position. I don't take it lightly. It's a conduit for and a catalyst for really achieving success the way we need to define it. And the biggest piece is, how do we define success? What is it that we want to see out of the district? So I understand there's Lone Star governance. I understand there's system of great schools. I understand that we are losing kids, and not necessarily because of performance, but because choice is the word, is the future in many ways. And so then, what is the level of commitment that the board wants, that the board is willing to make towards these goals? Because on top of that, yes, we're going to perform. On top of that, yes, we're going to become more efficient. On top of that, yes, we're going to look at all those pieces, staffing and numbers and enrollment. But if we're not all on the same page about what we want to accomplish, because the goal is the easy thing. Like this, as long as we all understand that this is the goal, then the discussions that we can have is how are we going to get there? That's what's always up for discussion. But what can't be is the goal. And my main interest is, what are the goals that we want? I understand we have student outcome goals. I get that. And we're going to perform. Everybody in the organization, started with myself. But when it comes down to it, what do you guys see for the district as the future moving forward? Because it will help me get a better understanding, because my job as superintendent is to come out here and help realize the vision that you folks have. This is your community. These are your kids. These are your schools. My job is to help you make that happen with all of those pieces. And so for me, clarity is important. If I can get that kind of level of commitment from you guys, tell me what you want. Tell me what you really want, so that I can help you get there. And so that's why I'm very interested in kind of listening from you guys. It's like, what are the ultimate goals for our district? What do you want to see? Yeah. You know what we need? The speaking stick. Right? Yeah, it's like a ball or something.
We have clean cards.
When I got here, I didn't know a lot about how schools ran in Texas, other than just myself going through the school system. But now I see the system, and I see the legislature, and I think that we have to look like a 20 or 30 year time frame from now. So I think ISDs are really, in my opinion, in a sink or swim situation. Charter schools are not going to go anywhere. And the more we fight them, the more we're losing capacity to make our schools stronger. So it's not about tearing down charter schools, it's about us kind of growing and thriving. And so I think we just have to offer the best for schools. And it's not even performance-based right now. I mean, even the Northeast, which has not had the same headlines, which got a great score in their kind of good measure, is suffering. And they were offering magnet programs for the past 20 years. So they've had their school choice, and they are declining at the moment. So I think we have to expand on horizons and offer whatever is good for kids and what people here in South San want. Because ultimately, we shouldn't have anybody in South San have to travel across the city to put their kid in a good school, because it should be right here. That's part of my story. That's part of why I didn't go to the school system I was supposed to go through in NISD. That's why I went to school in Northeast, was because my mother thought that we need to move to get to a better school. And that should not be the case for anybody here anymore. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, and I'll say some more on that piece, because I think that's why I came to the board. I have 3 kids in the district, and I felt like I needed to change the setting And even if my kids didn't directly benefit right now, but just all kids of the south side, I left, I graduated college, I came back, and I moved right back to the area where I grew up. And that was by intent, that was purposeful. So I came back and reinvested in my community, right? I bought a house in Lago Vista where it was a newer community, and it was a new build. And so I thought, let me put some money back into the south side where I came from, right? And my wife was on board with that, and she's a teacher for this district. So I felt like our standards were low. I felt like our kids deserved a whole lot more out of a school district, and that our kids deserve the opportunities that every kid in the city should have. Some have more, some have less, but I feel like ours should be on the level playing field. It's great that we have a few kids going to great colleges and great universities and becoming success stories, but it needs to be the norm. It needs to be the rule and not the exception, and that's what it is right now, is that there's a few that make it, right? And there's a few that do well, but we need to make that the norm. And I think that's what we've been lacking here, is just that motivation of everybody. It kind of got to where there's an acceptable level of just graduating children, and that kind of rubs off everywhere, and it was an acceptable standard. And I feel like the standard needed to be raised. That's why I ran for the board. I feel like Edward does, where we got to take that community input, two-way engagement, and make that conversation at this level so that people don't think that this is all we can get. We got to be able to make them understand that we can achieve so much more, just like other districts can. And so that's kind of my story and why I'm here.
With me, it was kind of similar to yours, except I don't live this here. I didn't come to this district. I've only been in the district a little over 5 years. But I know what South San was back in the day. It was great. It was great. I felt that I have a lot to contribute for the betterment of the district, for the betterment of the students. Because I know if you get a bunch of people together, just a small group of people heading in the same direction, they can accomplish a lot. It doesn't take an army, just a handful, like us. And that was my thought. I thought, I know I can make a contribution. I know I can help students in some way. If it can't be one-on-one, which was my initial thought, well, doing it from this level. And I agree with you. Yeah, we got satisfied with being here. Graduating, yeah, you accomplished it all. I personally believe it goes beyond graduation. And it's not necessarily formal education either. But one of the phrases I picked up in Austin was a lifelong learning. Because one of the things I like to do is, I like to learn something new every day. This makes a difference what it is. It doesn't have to be school related or whatever. Just something new every day, because if you don't, you stagnate. And that's one of the things I feel that I can instill, right? Hopefully that we can instill, I should say, or in the students. Saying it doesn't end with graduation from high school. It doesn't end when you graduate from college. It's a lifelong thing, So that's my motivation for being here.
And for me, it's like a reset button, bringing in our 8th person in the team, okay? Reset because we've set goals. We have student outcome goals. We've set goals. But in reset, in that you're going to take us to the next level now as we progress. But I also feel that because we set these goals, now we are trickling down to the student and saying, you need goals as well. And it may not be that they're going to go to college, because not every child is going to, it's college material. But they may have a goal of being, an athlete one day, of being an artist one day, of being whatever they choose, to be successful in. But I want to be part of the system that is going to provide them with the tools that they're going to be needing in a positive way, because whatever our kids do outside of the classroom, whether it's athletics, it's band, it's fine arts, it's whatever, all of that is an extension of the classroom. They're being taught in the football field, in the basketball court, in the stage, whatever that may be. So one day I would love to hear, I hope I get to live to see the day that South San will have at least one National Merit Scholar. Okay? If other districts can have that, our students are capable of that. It's just, I want to be part of the system that is going to provide them with the right tools by setting the goals for them and saying, you can achieve this. You can do it. That's why I'm here.
Can I just add something you said in the middle? You know, we always ask our kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, and I think I told Alex this a couple of weekends ago. I've gotten to the point where instead of asking them that, I ask, how do you want to contribute to society when you grow up? I mean, which to me is a better goal. If we can instill that into them, you know, and that's one of the things another reason why I'm here. You know, they can look at different things like us. Okay, sorry.
No.
Okay, with me, election is in 28 days, so I've got 28 days left. So, yeah. So, I hope that you come here with an open mind. It's very easy to have preconceived notions of how this board acts, how the school is, because we do get a lot of negative press. Because anything that happens at South Side, Southwest, South San, they all blame it on South San. Everybody thinks that it's just us, when it's different districts. But because the names are so close, we always get the brunt of the bad press. And the Express News is not our friend, so the worst they can do is find anything that we do wrong, things, blow it up. So I heard reconnect with the community. Like you said a few minutes ago, we are trying. This is not the board that it was 2 years ago. Very different, very respectful. Nobody's yelling, nobody's rolling their eyes anymore and stuff like that. So I do hope that you come in with an open mind. Forget everything you've heard about South San. It's a lot easier to work with and move us forward if you don't bring that baggage with you.
True. And I will tell you, I would not have even applied to come here if I had, as an outsider, who has been attuned to everything that happens in the district of San Antonio, living in San Antonio for the last 20 years, very well aware of the progress that you guys have made.
But the community is not there with us. We'll go anywhere and, oh, board, oh, South San, they're still the same. They're all doing terrible things, and they never progress. They haven't progressed, so we haven't pushed them.
And
that's where we're going.
I think that ties into what Louis was saying about how, as trustees, you guys are entrusted to make decisions on behalf of the district, which a lot of times it runs in opposition to believing that you have to do as your constituents are asking you to do or telling you to do, because it's a fine line. Because if you come from generational poverty, I came from generational poverty, it's hard to break that cycle. And until somebody can show you better and show you that you can accomplish more, have a national merit scholar, have people that are aspiring to more than just graduating and then you did it. Because if that's the standard that we've set for ourselves, that as long as you graduate, you did your job, well, is that good enough? And if the answer is no, even though the community it may not necessarily believe that right now, I think that if we work really hard at educating them, at going out there and not being afraid to answer questions, and find ways to regain their trust, to say, all right, can we believe what the work that you guys are doing? And it's tough for them to believe that because it's been years, it's been generations. This is not anything that is new. But the only way that I think that we're going to be able to turn that corner is if everybody gets on the same page and really gets behind these initiatives and these actions that we take so that we can really help folks see that, hey, there is a better option. Hey, they really are offering this choice. Hey, they really are pushing my kids to do better, and their support systems in place as we honor the traditions, as we honor the values of the community, as we honor what makes South San South San. I'll tell you, if anything, like if anything, you know how they say that all press, at least we're in the news, at least people know who we are, right? So here's the thing.
Maybe in Hollywood,
I gotta see that the HB here. But so can you imagine if we actually start putting all these things in place, start getting pressed for the right reason, start being there, because I really do envision us one day being recognized for being a board that works together and that really has gone somewhere and has made a difference for their community. And why not? The answer is why not? And I'm a walking miracle, I'll tell you that much about my life, just to be able to make it out of where I came from in Eagle Pass. I was born in Eagle Pass, and so it's like, so for me, it's such an honor to be able to come out here and help you guys, get to where you guys see, because everybody on this board has high expectations. Everybody on this board cares about their community, and so now it's about helping the community understand what we're trying to accomplish. So you better believe we're going to work hard at that.
And like one of the things that Louis said about the students coming back and having pride in their community. Pansy and I went to a school in Grand Prairie, remember that? And they had pictures of ex-students, people who graduated. Some went to college, but they had a picture, like a picture of a girl, said what year she graduated from South San and where she was now. Like she's a teacher at this school for 5 years, or she's a lawyer at this law firm, or big things and there were a lot of kids, right, that achieved a lot of stuff. So kids will see somebody that, just like me, I graduated from here, look where they are, I can do that, it's attainable.
The power of being a role model.
Yeah, so that was real, I really, and that stuck to me, it's always stuck to me that I saw that and to motivate the kids right now, because they say, oh, I'm just from South San. No,
Right.
look at all the other people
Right.
who are just from South San.
And you know what's important is, I heard you mention that when you guys went to Grand Prairie to visit, right? So this is where I know a lot of times the community is always going to be critical about how you were spending your time and your effort and
And we were
those kind of
criticized.
things. And I will tell you, one of the best things that as boards and as a team of eight that we can do is we need to go visit other districts that are successful and that have overcome these challenges. There's nothing new under the sun. So why are we trying to invent the wheel here when there's already many wheels out there? And so, yes, you may take criticism for what you're doing, but criticism is going to be there regardless. So if we're going to let criticism stop us from making progress, well then, might as well quit right now. Because and so I don't think that there's anybody in here that feels that way. And so you shouldn't be afraid to go out there and see what has been successful, what does work. How did you do it? How did you figure out? Come back with notes. How do we make that work for us, for our community? How do we make that work for our district? And then in a way that we can go and talk to the community and go, hey community, what do you guys think about this? And then for them to tell you, well, that may not be such a bad idea. That's all I need from you, right? And we can work on those things. So I definitely encourage for folks to be willing to take those risks. And when you do hear the criticism, say, hey, we're trying to make the place better. So we're going to bring back technology and use it to help ourselves.
I'd like to chime in on a couple of the comments. Everybody's made some good comments. Aldo talked about not all our kids are ready for college or will be going to college, exactly. I just don't think our district is doing enough to advertise. We have so many good programs that are not being advertised in career ed. There's robotics, there's cosmetology, there's HVAC, and a lot of districts in San Antonio don't have that anymore. I think we're one of the few districts that still offers that, but it's never publicized. People don't know we have. I've never seen our culinary arts department be publicized in really nowhere. So there's a lot of good things that we need to go out there and show the positive image of South San. We have these other districts don't have them. And I think that's a start. Show it to the community, let them know it's not just a high school. We have all these other things available. And then Mr. Maria commented about the funding. We know we probably won't get much funding. The legislature's not going to change. I don't think their priority is not going to be public schools. So that's not going to happen. But Northeast just recently, that came out on TV, that they closed an elementary, but now they're reopening it as a pre-K academy.
Right.
And they're getting that enrollment, and they're getting that revenue, and that's what we need to look at. What can we do with our campuses so that we can bring back our kids and generate more revenue? Because that's where the money's coming, it's from the kids. I had a grandparent and 2 parents tell me that they try to get their babies in here because we have the Head Start program, but that there's a waiting list. So we have campuses open up a wing,
Yes.
put the Head Start kids in there. That's revenue for us. Don't turn them away, especially if we have a waiting list. So I think there's things we can do to generate revenue. And I look forward to Dr. Flores with some good ideas, hopefully, on how to do that.
Right.
And let's get this district rolling again. And I think the TRA needs to be revisited and a bond as well. And those are just my opinion.
Yeah, all those things are definitely options that we can consider.
So, just a little commercial announcement from facilitators, okay? First is, I want us to add to our language. You said Pens is not our friend yet.
Yeah, exactly.
That is, let me make commercial to the commercial. Okay, that is one of the things that stood out with when your interview. Because I was just, and you said something about, I'm the type that writes letters to the newspaper and tells the newspaper. You were proactive in doing that. You didn't let them, well, they're going to say this and then. So that really stuck to my, when during your interview, one of the things you said. And nothing, a lot of the people said almost the same thing, but that did stand out right there. That you were willing to contact the newspaper, not wait and let them say whatever they want.
The story says if you don't tell your own story, somebody else will tell for you,
Right.
right? And so
And that's what
we need to tell, and ties back in is to, are we doing a good enough job of advertising the great things that we have and finding those avenues? And that's why when you were saying about expressing yourself, like, we're working on making them my friends, and they haven't been friends.
No, and that did sound, I remember that you said that.
And I think recognizing a lot of our graduates are not just teachers. We have graduates, we have city councilmen, we have judges, we have attorneys, we have a lot of graduates. They may not live in South San and have moved out, but they're still graduates of South San. And just like football has the Hall of Fame for all these past football players, why don't we have a Hall of Fame of our graduates that have actually achieved something at each campus? You know, why not? And that's something as a role model for the kids to look at.
So when I was listening to your comments in both rounds, the image that came to me was the power of South San, or South San power. And you mentioned the fact that, the reinvestment here is important. There's also the outreach you just spoke about in terms of, so the power of South San has done what for the city of San Antonio, for the state of Texas, for the nation? When you start talking about, we got this person here, we got this person here, we got this person here, how do we tell that story and connect that? And so I think there's several considerations here and things that I'm taking away just hearing the conversation about our language, about our communication that you mentioned earlier, and about our purposefulness in sharing that. And there's this, it's interesting, I really caught it this weekend in the business section of the paper. They talked about what we used to call the type A personality, the type B personality, of the A with tightly wound, B's not wound, okay? The new generation is R, okay? For resiliency, okay? And the ability to respond to change, okay? To adapt to change. And I think that's part of the residual aspect of the power of South San. The story that you're telling personally and professionally, how do we acknowledge, support, encourage that? Because that's what we're looking for way beyond.
And I think it's how do we do what Ed just said in all the different levels, out in the communities, in the homes, at the community meetings, with our teachers, with administrators. Of course, central office will be included in all that, but then at the board level, and then at the state, the city level, the state level, and the national level, how do you communicate at all of those levels, all the great things that are happening, all the opportunities that are under advertised right now?
Change that conversation, that's what we gotta do.
I just add the good builds upon the good. And so there's some good things happening here. There's more opportunities at the city level because they're noticing you're doing a good job. And there's great partnerships at the state level. So all entities have public dollars. They're not going to invest unless they know they're going to get the best use of that money. And so they want to make sure that we are the best that they can.
And there's another level that I believe, isn't that called a Lone Star Governance Mentor?
Oh, we're mentoring folks
Oh,
now.
that's right.
Yeah.
Isn't that like something that I read
One is-
recently?
yeah.
One
One
says
is
two?
In the state?
And the two? With two coaches? Two? Yeah.
Yeah. Very well
Proud
placed.
parents.
I mean, because that is.
But not a
another
lot of
level
people
to have
understand that
two.
recognition. It'd be nice if a lot of more people understood what that means, but they don't. So it's our,
I
that's the
haven't seen it in the
opportunity.
paper, I haven't seen it in the news.
Which comes back again to, are we doing a good enough job of promoting the
Yes.
great things that are happening?
You know, I've always used Harlandale, our neighbor in school, as an example. I don't know if everybody gets a Southside Reporter, but there isn't a week that doesn't go by that the superintendent has an article or he has something to say about upcoming events or recognition. Every Thursday, he has something about Harlandale. Every Thursday without fail. I don't know if he's bribed those editors to put him on there every Thursday.
We're not making any out of that.
Because I think that they would allow so many, you know, but it's every Thursday, Harlandale has something in there. Every Thursday from the superintendent. And we're just not getting it. And that's our newspaper on the south side. And that goes to every single house in the district, on the south side, on this side. So,
Not on this side.
yeah, now Kern Valley.
On the other side
But,
of
right.
the overpass.
So,
From the
but,
Jack in the Box that way.
Yes.
from the hill that way.
Yes.
So I just want to add something that I've noticed at the city level that I think kind of goes unnoticed. So people are more inclined to let you or support you do bigger things like maybe you're going to sue the state, if you're going to do a bond, you're going to do whatever kind of big thing it is, if your basics are being met. So if I can drive down, my street's okay, my sidewalk's okay, sure, I'll support you. But if I'm not getting that here, why am I going out of that shelter to spend money elsewhere?
True.
And so part of the thing for Lone Star governance, I think for us, is it's hard. I tell people like, oh, we're doing great. We get, have a lot of respect out when we go. Like, that's nice, but, my kid doesn't have the bus.
What are you doing for me?
Yeah, my kid doesn't have the bus. Like some person on Facebook took pictures of the season and they're like, there's water spots, how dare y'all do this, but you go to Galveston.
Right.
So until we get some of that groundwork kind of just structured and layered, and that's okay, I think people are going to be more inclined to say, hey, that's great, dollar dollars, do more of that. And right now, they can appreciate that because they're still seeing some basic needs not being met. That's my opinion.
Well, I agree with that, and I feel like it's a tribute to our budget constraints, and where we put our dollars. And I'm not saying that can't be changed. It's just what's the priority, and capital improvements is never the priority. So
That's why we have the man here now.
Yeah, and no pressure, I'm supposed to find all the answers to all of this.
well, you got to think outside the box, right? Because
Yeah,
we want
that's right.
education to be the priority.
And
Always,
I'm glad you
right?
said that, because one of the things that I said in my interview was, I want people to care about, it's in our name, we're South San Antonio, ISD. We are part of the city. The city should care about us the same way. But I will tell you, just like you said, the partnerships won't come here unless they know that we have our act together, unless they know that we're on the same page. Are we worthy of investment? And we can bring the partners. And you do have to concede some of the autonomy and the authority, because this is what a partnership is. It's not a partnership if it's only one way. So there's a give and take there that needs to happen. But when we get the partnerships, we can get additional revenues. We can start working on our facilities. Like right now, we just need to keep them clean, well-maintained, and make sure the kids are safe and the staff has the necessary resources. It's the starting point. I saw the presentation, our bonding capacity is high. We need to bring kids back. It's about school choice. It's about partnerships so that we can bring in additional revenues, open up those Head Starts again in the empty buildings that we have right now that are wasting away, so that we can start getting a movement going, so that the rack spaces of the world and the Toyotas of the world and all these big entities that always have a philanthropic bone that they need to take care of, well then why not us? And then, so if we can start doing that, I think everything starts moving in the same
Dr.
direction.
Flores,
Yes, ma'am.
what Ms. Prado said, and I think what all of us have said, and piggybacking on what you said, the glory days of South San, you'd be surprised how many South San graduates are out there that are making decisions for the city.
Yes.
Or don't live, like you say, in our district anymore, but are out there working with certain corporations, okay? That they're disappointed with the way our district has evolved maybe over the years and still are thinking that it's the same board that was functioning the way that we're functioning
Right.
years back. It's a different board now. We're mentoring now,
Yes.
school districts that want to, that are going to be taking part in Lone Star governance. So that ought to say something. But if we don't work together as one board, as a team of 8, okay, including with our superintendent, and get our message out there, then the partnerships will be hard in coming by. It's just that we need to get them to understand that we're not that board anymore. We're a unified board working towards our goals to get to where we need to be. We're progressive now. So now they're starting to see the changes. Now they say, yes, I want South San to be back the way it was in the glory days. Yes, I want to contribute to that. But it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take the effort by all of us sticking together, working together to get there.
Go ahead.
You said something about getting the message out, tied to what you were saying, you too, about when you get the message out, you're going to be able to have the language out of this is what we're doing. And if you don't have that language out of this, these are the great things that are happening, all of these wonderful programs, processes, people are going to focus on the spot on the ceiling that have, because that they know about that. They can see it, they can talk about it. But when you're out as a board communicating the great things that are happening here, the change process, going back to the glory days, you're helping them to be able to communicate in the education term. Because when you guys first came on the board, it was probably like sometimes a foreign language with all the acronyms and all the, so helping make that clear, because that's hard from the outside looking in on what all of that really means.
And I think the other thing, it's hard to get, like Dr. Flores was saying, business people to come. I think we should start inviting the Tom Frost, the people from Valero Energy, the people from these big corporations. Invite them to our meetings and have a nice little reception for them first. Have them stay at our meetings to see that there is a change.
Right.
So that they can visibly see what they're writing about South San is not what I've saw. And maybe that'll spark the interest and invite them to come and be supportive of the board and of our district and start giving more to us. We're just as much as need as Hardendale and Southwest and all of these other school districts. So I think if they don't come to us, we gotta go and get them and bring them to us.
I just want to piggyback on that idea. So one of the things that you said very consistently from the moment I met you was there's lots of opportunity. Okay? And that theme is very evident this evening. It won't end this evening. Okay? Each one of you have talked about whether it's the ceiling tile or whether it's the priority or what have you done for my kid. Clearly there's lots to be done. No one is saying disagreeing with that. What is going to be critical in the next 90 to 120 days is how, as a team, working through your number one employee, begin to strategize what are the high-yield strategies. What are the things that are going to move us forward? And so part of that is, as I was thinking about that idea of inviting somebody, but what if the kid and parent invite that person along with the support of administration? It's important to hear, when you start putting a kid's face to the story about, well, my school has this, we have that ceiling tile, because we don't, but look at all the good things we're doing over here. It's different than hearing it from an adult. The adults will reinforce that piece. But the part of it is, to me, that's what the power of South San is. It's always about the individual kid. And that kid has another kid and a kid. All of a sudden it's just this family. And how do we leverage that so that it's not just within the boundaries? So again, thinking through those things, there's there are great opportunities ahead. So I want to encourage you to continue the conversation, and want to ask a couple of polish pieces. Encourage you to do these kinds of conversations, because that's where it gets out on the table. The second is, here's the polish piece, and we're going to kind of mirror this in the next section as well. So what I'd like to hear from you guys is, what did you hear him say? And what I would like to hear from him is, what did he hear you say? In other words, what are the takeaways? Okay? So your job is, what did you take away from his comments? His job is, what did he take away from your comments?
Can I start first? Well, what I did here is that, one, we don't promote ourselves well enough. And we have to fight the negativity that is put out there with the positivity that we do have. I heard that folks are open to change, and that is crucial. That is critical for us if we're going to adapt in a changing environment. I think that everybody wants what's best, and people understand that the basics need to be taken care of, and they understand that we should have higher goals and aspirations. So there's a level of high expectation that is being placed, and they're taking the charge on this, because they're the ones who have to answer to the community that, why are you asking more than a graduation? Like, we should all be happy, kid graduated, what else do you want? Well, we want more, because we know we can do it. And so, and the other thing that I heard was that folks are open to partnerships, folks are open to having other entities come and work with us. Here's the piece though that I also heard as well, that we want to make sure that we don't lose what makes South San South San. And so, because as you're bringing in partnerships, as people are influencing your campuses, as people are bringing different approaches, different programs, whatever the case may be, what we don't want to lose is our identity. Is that accurate to say? So I think it's important that we articulate those core beliefs, those core values, and that anybody that we would partner with would be willing to honor them and respect them, because that's how we keep the identity of South San intact as we adapt to the changing environment as 21st education, public education looks like in the state of Texas. So is that pretty close to what I did? I'm just trying to put everybody's input and feedback. Yes. Okay,
You threw it all in a blender.
I did, sir. I did. That's kind of a goal.
Not everybody can do that.
Were there any parts that were left out that were really important to you? Or perhaps summarized? You did a beautiful job. Or anything that percolated to the top after he said that?
I think he's overwhelmed.
I'm going to go, oh, Lord.
That's understandable at this point too.
He's gonna be fine.
Well,
way out.
and I will tell you, as long as you folks understand that it's not going to be easy, it can't happen overnight.
That's right.
It's going to be a process, but as long as we set ourselves up with measurable goalposts, then we can go, okay, we took care of the academics. Okay, we're working on our facilities. Okay, we're working on our enrollment. Okay, we're working on our partnerships. We're moving the needle in a measured way. As long as you folks are understanding of that, I know we're going to get there.
Yeah, because that's the way goals are out there. It's a destination. The fun part is the journey.
That's the journey.
So,
and now
We gotta stop and smell the roses, right? That's promoting the promoting the
Rationality.
Very true. That's very true.
And we need to be flexible. We all have had to be flexible a lot and agree with everybody, even though sometimes we don't. As long as you can not be set in your ways, and this is, I'm going to do this and that. As long as we can work together, not me just hold it on, but as long as the board can work together and you can be flexible and just, I'm sure everybody will be, they'll have your back and will support you in any way we can.
So can I ask a question?
No, I didn't run again.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But here's the reason I asked that question is, you still have a role.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Not being parent.
Yes, but actually you have a slightly larger role and an informed role because of where you have sat. Okay, so I'm not suggesting that every patron have an opportunity to be on the board, because it would take several years to go through all of that. But I mean, it's literally kind of raising the education of the community by having somebody out there that sometimes you can tell the rest of the story within legal limits that these people may not be able to.
Well, and she might have 3 more people join her, so it depends on.
Outcome of the elections.
Optimistic.
I would just like to say before we stop this part, and it probably hasn't been brought up. If it has, maybe it's just not as direct as I wanted it to come out, but I'm going to be direct right now. So I think one of the things that we've lacked here over time is just the long-term plans. I think we've had a lot of short-term plans, but we've never had a 10-year or a 15-year plan like for facilities. As far as, and what I mean is just once we institute goals, like right now, like we started academies. If we really want to incorporate those academies and build them into elementary schools, that's a 10-year plan. Let's have an academy plan. I don't think we have that right now. We just have a start of what we did, which is fine. I mean, we got to start somewhere. But I'm just saying, that is what I think South San has just been lacking in the short-term plans or goals that have been set, sometimes haven't been met. And that's where that distrust from the community comes in, right? Because we made some promises, we haven't kept all of them up. That kind of caused, I think, some of the closing of the schools. You know, I mean, I think building 2 middle schools a mile from each other was not the right decision. And I mean, it is what it is. It's water under the bridge at this point. But how we move forward, right? So we don't repeat the mistakes that we've made, is to have some plans in place that we talk to the community about. And it could be about anything. It could be about transportation, right? I mean, that's a big issue. And that's the transportation plan is nothing that's ever been laid out so that anybody understands it. Board members, community, anybody. I mean, we get the gist of it right now or at the moment, but it's not something that's an ongoing plan that we can say in 2 years I know what's going to happen, in 5 years I know what's going to happen, in 10 years I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen this year, but that's it, you know? So those things I think are going to be crucial to be able to move the district where we want it to be.
The hard part, yes, through long-term strategic plan is smart. It's one of the best things that you could do because it falls in line. You folks just did what is it, 5-year strategic plan that started 2 years ago. You all reaffirmed it last February, correct?
Yes.
And so at least now you have a plan for the next 4 or 5 years. That's better than not having a plan at all. On the facility side, what's difficult about it is and we come back again to, are we adapting to the changing climate in public education? Because if we were to plan the wrong way, we're opening up these schools and opening up all this capacity and the kids are leaving. And so this is where you have to stay flexible enough to work those things.
The plan could be if we decline in enrollment, then this happens.
Yes, right.
I mean, that could be part of the plan.
Yes. Yes.
That way it wouldn't be a surprise that we had to close the school, right? I mean, it was already in the plan.
And coming back to that point, I think that any time that you close the school, you are killing the heart of the community. Wherever you are, it is such a difficult thing, painful thing to go through.
Oh, I agree.
And folks won't forget it. And so, 20 years from now, they'll be talking about that day. It really will. And so you say, we can't do anything about what we've done in the past. And I'm not here to criticize any decisions that have been made because there's tough decisions to be made all the time.
I can only do that because this is where I'm from.
Sure, yeah, for sure. Yes.
My family's paid dollars here all my life and theirs.
And so you have every right.
I have the right.
That's for sure. And so then the question now is how do we take that and do something about the campuses that we have shut down before an outside entity comes and takes it over without even asking us? Because I will tell you, they will come over and take it without even asking us. So I would much rather partner up with them if we could in a way that still we control how it is, how the services are delivered, that we control how it is that the parameters are set, that we're honoring what our community wants so that we can stay proactive and be able to adapt so we can look towards the future and still be able to maintain the core that we are.
Dr. Hoy, so one thing the district has never done,
Right.
to my knowledge, since I've been on the board is we've seen a tendency of loss of enrollment. It's been slowly coming. But nobody from the district, even way back then, has ever taken the time to find out why are our kids leaving.
Right.
Pick up that phone and say, you're no longer at our school district, what happened, what can we do to make it better? And I think that will give us a lot of information. How do we improve what we're doing, or what are we lacking?
Right.
Why are they leaving us? And I know we don't have the staff,
Right.
because the staff is overwhelmed, but why not a telephone bank of parents to say, look, we've got these people that we want to find out where they've left, and we want you to call.
Right.
Set them up in a room someplace, let them call and get down information. So we can find out what are we doing wrong, and what do we need to change to bring these kids back. They didn't leave the district.
Right.
These parents know what to do.
Yeah.
They just drive the kids to Southwest and
Yeah.
use somebody else's address.
Yes,
You know, it's that simple.
very true.
Or they have open enrollment.
Well, I think it goes back to choice. They want to have the choice. And it goes back to the customer service that we provide. It goes back to all those things.
And I remember when I left the district 7 years ago, there was an exit strategy that, it was a form that had to be used on students that were checking out or withdrawing. They had to fill out this form, and parents had to say why they were leaving. Now, has that been continued? I don't know. But did we have anyone that took that data to try to figure out, how these kids are going here, or they're going there, or are they still living here, but they're wanting to go to private school, or they're want, so I don't know if that's still going on, but it takes somebody that's just going to work with the data as well, because it's time consuming. You got to do it for every campus.
Right. And there's ways to pull data.
Right,
Yeah.
and there's a
Yeah.
flip question to it, so don't forget the other side of that question. Why did you move here?
Why did you move here? Also.
I mean, and it may be, well, financially, or I have to move like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you came back home.
Well, there's also
I mean,
and there was also an entry
Yes.
interview, where there was a form they had to ask them, because we want to know, are we going to be servicing you? Because a lot of times they don't come with a report card, or they don't really come with the records until you request the records.
Right.
So you have to sit down with the parent and say, where is your child coming from? What grade? What services was your child receiving in another school? Because you just don't want to put them in a class
Right.
and then find out 6 weeks later that they should have been receiving, these services after you get the records. So that too.
Right.
But I don't know if it's continued.
So, want to honor the time as well, okay, because there's...
No, this is the best part. We're okay.
Yeah, I know you are. You don't have to
They still
move.
need their time.
Yeah, that's true. So we're going to ask, going to sample a couple, because I want to talk about the community meetings, because I want to make sure that we have enough time for that. So, floor's open for you guys.
Tell me what you guys heard.
Can we take a 5-minute pee break?
Yes, okay. Yes, absolutely. Just come back.
Can we stretch?
Yes.
Why are you taking your keys? What?
And your bag and your purse.
You just heard their car tick up.
I need chocolate. Do we have mints?
Behind the
Okay, I see it.
I know because
It's huge.
You guys can finish there.
so inconsiderate. I don't think that's a good one. I inherited too, but you said you're they kind of she's like, oh, gee, they don't show up on the phone.
Just to make sure.
Yeah, it's still 9 minutes.
I know, right? It's like, hey, we're here to support you all day, but I gotta get back. No, but really, give me a message on my phone in my office while I promise I'll get back to you. Because Lord knows we check voicemail. You see, why is that light on my phone? Oh, so those are voicemails. Really? People still leave voicemails? Why can't they just text me? Yeah, they do. Look, it's like you have 45 messages, so I have delete. It's like, I need voicemails.
We do have voicemail?
Well, some of them are still old school.
Hey, listen, I'm the only one. I'm the oldest of five. And my next sister, her and I talk on the phone. The other three are like, why are you calling me? I just want to talk to you. They're like, no, just text me or WhatsApp me or whatever. I was like, what is that? I don't know. I don't want to just text you. Send me an emoji. You know what I mean? Like they don't even want to talk. They just want me to speak through emojis.
The new
now.
way to communicate.
No, you know what's even hilarious? It's grown men. I sit in the room with all the other superintendents, everybody's a grown men, and we're texting emojis to each other like, Lord knows, well, this is what we've come to, right? Like surprise emoji, crying emoji, happy emoji, love emoji.
You need your own sauce.
There you go.
Yes, you do. With the hashtag. New branding. With the hashtag.
Well, and it goes back again on marketing, our marketing. But here's the thing, guys. You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. And if we're gonna care about every single nickel of time, you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot and have somebody less than experienced or less than.
We used to have a print shop, right, where the kids, we still have it? Somebody said that it was shut down.
Carly's gonna go, yes, we do.
Because a friend of mine from Harlesville said he went over there to print some cards, but there was only two. Said board.
Talking about pictures before and after board.
But the print shop I thought was a valuable way to
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of, the kids learn, right? So they're learning something
I
and we're,
thought
I
it was still.
don't know,
I
I
did
mean,
too.
maybe it is, but that's the information.
Okay, so
Yeah, they do banners.
the question before the group is feedback to superintendent. What did
Yes,
you?
what did you guys hear tonight?
So one of the things that I heard that I think is going to have some, that we all need to hear, the board members, is Dr. Close kept asking, you tell me what you want to see for the school district, and he's going to take that initiative and lead on it. So if we're fractured and if we're going in different directions, that's not going to give clear leadership to Dr. Close. And it's very easy for a superintendent to come in with the CEO of the school district. He can very well unilaterally govern the school district. But that's going to get us a lot of short-term things. And I think that's one, you go into what you said, was that the school district had not had a board moving in one direction at all times. Obviously, that was in the news for a long period of time. And so the superintendent was left as the CEO governing the day-to-day actions. And so you don't have the capacity to think the long-term goals.
Right.
That comes from us. And so that's what that's telling me, is that we have to work together and we have to come up with those long-term goals for him to execute. And so that's why, that's the number one thing I heard.
Okay, and so in Lone Star governance, so I commit to working with the rest of the team of 8 to accomplish some long-term goals and to give you some clear leadership. Okay, that's the reason why you can't knock it off the board. So it's
No.
got it. That's done, yeah.
What I heard Dr. Flutter say is that, he's here to help us move South San in the direction to achieve the goals, but to keep South San traditions and pride and what people want South San to be. At the same time, you agree that there's higher expectations and that we need to take our students in that direction. You're willing to work and you're willing to help us with that. So what I will do is I will work with you 100% or more to make that happen, because this has been my home and this district has given me my career, and I'm here for every child at every school. Five Palms is not my school. Shepherd is just not my school, but every elementary, every middle, and the high school is my school, okay, to help every child.
So I heard a lot of good things, actually. But a roll up your sleeves, get in the thick of it attitude that is willing to engage community and try to bring South San back to what you feel were missed opportunities, a lot of potential here. And I feel like, in a nutshell, you were the best guy for the job. I read through that at the interviews and everything, and I'm still hearing it right now. So what I'll do is I'll be your biggest supporter, as long as you're willing to come out there with me side by side and get it done, you know what I mean? So I'm willing to put my time, my effort, and my commitment into executing the plan we come up with together as a board.
With me, I'm glad that you are willing to do a lot of marketing for the district, because that's what we've needed for the longest time. And I've always nagged about the same thing, that we needed recognition for the kids. Come to the school, look at all these banners out there that before that we were IR school, that we had no IR schools. Everybody, like before that, like the school where I was at Athens, I was PTA president for 7 years. So anything, every time we got recognized school exemplary, we made a big deal. Every kid knew, and the parents knew what we had done. Here, a lot of the stuff that's done, nobody knows. That recognition I was telling you about, do we have a plaque for the Lone Star, that Lone Star recognition? Do we have something to take to the November meeting? Because we need to put it out there that this is working, that we are moving forward. We're not the same board. So marketing is what we really need, and I'm grateful that you're heading in that direction. I'm committed.
And what I commit to.
I commit to keeping an eye on you from the outside.
That's a good one.
She'll be your taxpayer.
Yes. By all means.
Dr. Flores, I commit to you 100% as well. I think this is the first time that I can remember with any superintendent that we have had such a close gathering of the team of 8. I mean, we've never really sat this close. Shares moving so, but it gives you that feeling of there's warmth and there's trust, and you can open up and speak. I think that's been lacking for a long time. So you have my support 100%, and I think everybody else feels the same, but I'll let them tell you. I look forward to seeing you out in the community, because they're going to want to see you, and you're going to need to build that trust. And I think you're the right person for the job. I see a lot of good things for South San coming.
I'm just going to make my commitment. And I commit, obviously to support and push him, but not only him, to push myself and everybody else, because I know we can achieve greatness. We're doing it together and we push each other. So I commit to push you guys, push myself, and I expect the same.
I commit to coming back after November 6th and working with you to build that trust. We need the trust from the community, and not only the community, but what represents schools, administration, teachers, parents, everyone in that business, all that partnership. We need to go back.
And I also have one other commitment, if I may. I also commit to support you in whatever decisions you make or that you feel you need to make when it comes to your staff. I will support you 100%.
And I will say that is such a key piece. I'm not coming in here ready to clean the house or all these other things. I want to give everybody an opportunity to aspire more for the place. And especially the people that are from here. This is your place. Everybody else is an outsider. If there's anybody that should care about this place being the shining star that it should be, it's you. And so I want to give everybody the opportunity. I also know that if the folks don't feel that it's that same level of commitment, then do they really have a place here? And this is what's always difficult about this job, because you're the sum total of all your decisions. And you're going to hear it when it happens with a certain paraprofessional, a certain principal, a certain teacher, or custodian, whatever. And it's you're gonna be to say, oh, that guy, he's the devil, he's so terrible, he's coming in here claiming house, pushing people around. And I will tell you, that is not the approach that I take. I give everybody the opportunity to perform. We all need to be on the same page and have the same level of commitment. And I commit to using the Lone Star governance principles, the system of grade school principles, because those are not my principles. Those are not my initiatives. Those are the initiatives that you folks are committed to. So I'm here to realize those pieces. So whenever I have to have a conversation with an individual, this is where we talk about how did your actions affect the student outcome? Was there integrity behind those things? How are you benefiting off those relationships with other adults that were working against the outcomes that we had set for our district? They're tough conversations. But everybody's got to understand that they all have a piece and a hand in the success or failure of our kids. And I think that when parents see that, they're going to go, that place cares about my kid. From the bus driver to the paraprofessional to the main office lady to that principal to that superintendent to that board. And that would be the ideal role for me. But that means that I have to hold the adults accountable. And I will tell you, I have all the heart in the world for kids. The biggest compliment that I could ever receive is when a young man or young lady comes to me and shakes my hand for something that I did for them. That's what really gets me. The adults, I'm sorry, everybody's a grown person, you all make your life, and self-interest reigns supreme with adults. But kids, all day, every day. And if we all understand that, and if I have y'all support for that, because I understand, I don't have to check with you guys with the staffing decisions. I understand that. And if it's necessary to have it that way. I understand that. But I still want your support. I still need your blessing. We're still a team. Why am I going to be making decisions on the own when the rest, all 7 of you are like, that's not what we wanted. Well, everybody understands the role. You have your role. I have my role. I'm going to support what you guys need and what you guys want to see done. As long as you guys can support me right back. As for what I need to do on my end to get you those results, to bring you those outcomes you're looking for, I think we're going to be fine. And I really do think that this is the team right here. Everybody has a unique voice. Everybody has a reason why they fight for what they fight for. My job is to put them all together and make it all happen.
Thank you. Yep. So, we only have about 45 more slides, so we're just going to go through very quickly. Yes, but one of the things just for future work is to establish your group norms. The group norms are beyond your board operating procedures. It's about how we agree to behave. Okay? So it's beyond the stuff of like who does the agenda and who's going to be the spokesperson. This is about the respect, about how we agree to disagree or whatever. Okay, so that's future work. What I wanted to spend some time talking about was the community meetings. So one of the things you did at the last meeting was you talked about the 3 that got together as the committee to talk about why we're doing it, because it was tied to Lone Star governance, plus we want to establish that connection. You talked about the process of sharing information, and then the table talk, and the index card questions, and so that was stuff that you talked about in terms of design, okay? And that, I'm assuming, will hold true to the next 2. You talked about the delivery, okay, the strategies we wanted, and it was great that you had community people listening, okay, talking, not the board, okay, there's an opportunity, but as you had, it was peer-to-peer, okay? Community people talking, a very conscious design, and purposeful strategy. So I want to talk about a little bit is about process piece. Okay, so here as well as this last section, the debrief. Okay. So as you head into your second and third one, a couple of things to consider. And this is feedback, not necessarily because it didn't happen, but just I want to plant some seeds for some things to think about. Number 1, easy thing to do, smile. Okay. I know we're so serious, particularly when we're up here. Yeah, I know, you know. Go to your happy place. Okay.
It's hard to smile when you're thinking about the content that you're going to deliver.
Right. And so really what we're talking about is be approachable. Okay. So when, for example, you and who else was there? I can't remember. You were there, and who else? When y'all got up and you went to the table, that's approachable behavior. Instead of people coming to you, it's okay to you, but it's when you do those kinds of things, it's approachable. Okay. The polish piece is restating what somebody said, even though you do not agree with them. Okay, this is about, our intent is, are we hearing what the community, and what they say, and think about it, we do it in most of our governance, okay?
Over and over and over again.
We just restate whatever you said, whether we agree with it or not, it's not the point, okay? You go, this is the worst training ever, this was the worst training ever. It is what it is, it doesn't agree, it's just,
This is the worst training.
Let me see if I understand. You're saying to me that this is the worst training ever, is that accurate?
Perfect.
I mean, no other way do I communicate, I got it, I heard it, okay?
And I don't get angry in that situation, because I don't just, because I disagree with it.
Right.
It's a fact.
Oh, we should say, so you're saying that this is the worst training?
So you're right, it's without emotion, okay? I just lost my place. Okay.
Well, it's about taking feedback, right,
Yes.
and be able to restate.
So you restate it, okay? Because what you want them to walk away is feeling like they heard us, okay? We didn't feel informed, okay? Meanwhile, you're thinking, God, the 30 emails and this is not the time for factual information, this is the time for gathering information in. Okay? At the end, restate what you're walking away with. What we heard this evening was, there was some misunderstanding about this. There's still some concern about this. You are concerned that our kids aren't getting the best deal. Instead of saying, we heard you, tell them what you heard.
And thank them
Yes.
for sharing.
Because one of the things the gentleman told you in that group, remember he said at the very end, thank you. He thanked you for listening. You know, it started with a little energy.
Yeah.
But then the more he talked, the energy came down, okay? And he said, and thank you. But it almost got buried a little bit, okay? Because people were talking, but he's like, but he said thank you. Okay? You thanked people because you were the lead person for coming out and sharing information. A language shift that is really hard, okay? So this is the super polished piece. Try to eliminate the use of the word but. Okay? Use the word and. Okay. So, I'm sorry, I put you on the spot. Okay, so give me some feedback that I may not necessarily agree with on something.
I haven't received any kind of communication. It seems that the district's just doing whatever they want. I don't know, and I can't have my opinion heard.
There's lack of communication. You don't feel heard. And you don't feel like you're done.
Yes, you're exactly correct.
And that's something we really need to continue to work on. Simple.
That's what
But you don't have,
everybody's
but
gonna
you don't have
say.
to,
That conversation.
you don't have to even answer it, all you're doing is validating what they said.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
you validate what they said, not the content of what they said.
Now somebody else can say, well, but what are you doing about it?
Mhm.
Okay, I mean, we kind of anticipate that. I want you to notice, it's something it may irritate some people. It is something I do, okay? I break eye contact and I think about the question. So pause before you, because if you respond too quickly, it makes it seem like it's a canned response, okay? Or, you know, I'm getting ready, like, I'm just waiting for you to take a breath so I can jump in there and say my part, okay? So one of the ways to help people is to is really, because you kind of calm things down when you relax.
Or that's a good question. Let me think about that for just a second.
You can also, and this is where the team comes in, okay? This is where the team comes in. So let's say that question back is, okay, so what are you doing? That's a really great question. I'm going to take a stab at it in a few minutes and ask my colleague Deanne to also add anything that she may be thinking in addition. I'm thinking about the new initiative we have on our website where we're doing such and such. I'm thinking about, I know we talked about in the board maybe putting
a column in the newspaper. I'm also realizing these are things that we're doing, planned, but maybe haven't done yet. Dan, what else might you share, or is there anything else you're thinking
You know,
about?
we're building relationships with the local media and with our community also.
Okay. So now watch two things. Okay, one, I gave her the heads up in case she wasn't paying attention that she's going to be coming up next, so get back, okay? The other is I called her by name. Okay, so think of it as the passing of the baton, okay? Because they
Get
were going
ready.
to watch. Okay,
You got-
yeah,
you got an
you're
answer
next.
coming up.
Okay. But I mean, really, so those are just some things, because when it's the message that you're sending the community about how we interact as a team,
Yes.
how we respect each other.
And how you can share an answer, because just whatever questions asked, pretend it's being asked to you and already have your list going in your mind, and then it's going to, the baton will get passed to you, where you can add your thoughts to that also.
And welcome to the human family. Sometimes you get asked a question, you know the answer. I mean, you know, now all of a sudden, kind of like I just sort of walk over like, and I'm thinking, this is the time for it to come. Okay. A colleague can jump in.
Yeah.
Okay. And while you're thinking, I was thinking about blah, blah, blah. You know, now, first of all, she acknowledged the fact that I was thinking, I'm going, I'm just trying to breathe. I don't know what's going on there, okay? And she labels it, but it's like, I got your back.
She's like, Ed's got chicken cordon bleu in his throat right now. Let me go ahead and take over for him.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because sometimes, this is something we do a lot in training, is sometimes we go, oh, Dan, I heard something different in that question. I was wondering whether, blah, 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 okay? Because that's another way to check with the other person, because sometimes we just hear, and it's just what we hear.
You hear it based on your perception of your background knowledge. And I answer what I believe about, because I know something about it, I might answer it totally wrong. He hears it totally in a different way and is able to share that. You also see Ed and I make a lot of eye contact while we're presenting, so that we work together long enough that we know just by a look that,
Accurate?
yeah.
Did you drop the ball?
I also think it's a good practice that when you're going, anytime that you're going to go out and give a message to the community, that you do your homework ahead of time, and you look at your presentation, you look at the content you're going to cover, have your audience into consideration, because they don't want to just see that fancy PowerPoint when you're not addressing the elephant in the room. And be prepared to answer the questions that you know are the hard questions you're going to be asked. Taking the devil's advocate approach to everything that you're doing. What is the worst that I could be asked about that if I was that disgruntled community member that doesn't believe in anything that is being told to me? This is all conspiracy theory, and I'm being recorded right now on my phone.
Yeah.
So then you say, okay, if that's that non-believer that's out there, it doesn't hurt to sit an hour before or 30 minutes before and say, all right, how would you answer that question? This is the word. And so at least you could have an idea. You're not hit out of left field, because left field questions come out of here out of nowhere. Is that accurate? Is that fair to say? So then it's always important to always look at it from as many angles as possible. Come at it, because I don't have the understanding of the community that you folks do. So I get in my mind, this looks very legit, it's a perfect plan, it makes sense, it's logical, it's progressional, and then you gotta go, no, that's the right thing.
So be careful, you're going over there.
Yeah, we don't talk about those things until saying, I was like, okay, do we know that, let's erase this.
You're going to mean about you.
Exactly. So I think that that's important, to really kind of get on the same page before. Because you phone it in, you walk in there, everybody's running from their work or whatever, and then you want to go out there and do a good job. Well, if you want to be a professional, you have to be professional. And so I think that that's important.
So think about, as you go to, I think accountability is next, and the third one is Lone Star governance. What are the 2 to 3 things you want them to walk away with? And that's the consistent message is about.
3 is always ideal.
Yeah. So I mean, and it's your opportunity to tell the story. Okay. So again, it's those 3 things that are consistent among the 3 of you that are there, or whoever is there. And then a consideration is maybe at the next board meeting, hey, we had this meeting, just want to report out. Here's what we walked away with. So again, it wasn't just that day,
Right.
it's coming back, okay? And then at some point after the 3,
Yeah.
here's what we, again, some messages that we're hearing. So
And it's shared with the entire board.
Right.
I have a
The
question
community is here.
on the meeting coming up,
Sure.
because it's accountability. So, is it okay to think that we should go ahead and address the elephant, which is 5 IR schools right off the bat? Is that one of the 3 things that we should make sure they hear from us, is that we know or acknowledge that we, I guess, failed and we understand what the failure was, but then our plan of action? Or is that not part of the initial presentation, but maybe of the game plan?
Presentation.
Yeah, so
Well, I'm asking as a facilitator, how would y'all's plan of attack be on something like that?
the question on the accountability part is we have a D, we got a D, what does it mean? And so I think that's where we're starting on the accountability part of it. And that's really up to the 3 of us, because we're going to be the ones there, so we have to debrief on that.
What I would like is, I want to take, like this presentation that we have, that's very technical. You gotta go kill the community, start throwing out those numbers and doing all that. So I would put that in comprehensible terms that the layperson can understand. And then really focus on what is the message. Why are we here again? This is the Lone Star governance piece. Touch on that. You're gonna have an in-depth meeting on the next one. Why are we at D? And if you really want to build, talk about the previous successes that you had. What you can't do right now is give them a complete plan of action because we haven't developed one yet. We have safeguards in place. We have things that we're doing, and we want to talk about how we're tracking better. Think about closing the gaps. That entire conversation that we have. It's the federal government system that makes us look at our subpopulations, the little groups of kids that are grouped by ethnicity or racial identity, whatever. And so, if you put it in those terms, and then you say, we're doing a better job of tracking those things, we're continuing to support our campuses, we are going to stay on top of the progress of the students. I think that those are broad general terms that parents can get behind. We know that we're aiming for higher. The goal is to not be a B. The goal is to continue making progress, and that's what you can commit to. Because if you lock yourself in, if don't lie to the community anymore on things that you're not going to do. If we're talking about building trust, then be comfortable with what you're going to say to them and stand there with conviction saying, this is what we know, this is what we learned the hard way, which, what I say, just about every district in the state of Texas learned the hard way. But this is how we're going to be graded from now on, and then this is how we're going to move forward. And I think that that's a good start.
But be ready for someone that may ask the question, my child is at an IR school.
Right.
So what are you doing about,
Right.
correcting that?
And
Because I guess
you
be
see,
ready
that's
for
that
that.
little advocate side, right? And then this is the other side that you can say to that, as the counter argument to that. Your child is at an IR school as defined by one test on one day. And is that what defines our schools? Is that what defines the people that work with your child every day? Is that what defines those teachers that do care about their progress? Is that what defines the quality of service that we're providing for you guys? And so you just put it into a larger context.
And if 2 kids did better on this test, you would actually have a letter grade above, in
Right.
that context.
Right.
So I guess let's pull back a fundamental question. And so I need to ask permission because we are over time. So is it okay to continue a little bit more?
No, we got.
Okay.
Time is late, so we need to make up that time.
Oh, I love it.
That's nice save.
What time was it supposed to be over?
9, 10.
Oh.
It's an all night.
So when you say this session is on accountability, or when you say it's on accountability, define accountability on the onset.
There
Are
you
we
go.
only
That's
talking
a
about
good-
state accountability?
Yes.
Are we talking about accountability to each taxpayer in this room, to each parent, each student? Are we talking about all the means of account? I mean, what are we talking about? Because
Maybe we should go over accountability in about different.
Because remember, you said it earlier, if we let them tell us what it is, then we need to lay out accountability. We're accountable on a number of different fronts, and there are lots of accountability systems. Okay, one of them is a state, made it to the paper. Do we need to talk about that? Yes, we certainly can. Here's what we know. According to the state, we have, 5 IR campuses or whatever the case may be. We have 18. According to this, we have that. In financial, we're here. At this school, we have blah, blah, blah. And we also have these things. So all of this is part of that accountability picture. Okay? Tonight, we're talking about these 2 things, or however it is, but put it in a context for people so that they don't just think about the tax bill that they got, or the fact that, a kid goes, well, here's my grade today, I made 100. That's great, that's wonderful. Yeah, every other one has been a 0, but today I made 100. It's the whole thing, right? Any more than the day you go to the doctor and you get on the scale because you starved yourself for 2 days and the other weights, I've lost 5 pounds. It's like, that's not the, that may be the day we measured it, but that's not really my weight.
We're only doing 3 right now because of November, but we still have room to do other 2. So I think we say, this is our, state accountability measure. We do have financial accountability measures. We do have building accountability measures. We can talk about that later on, but right now we're talking about the academic.
I will tell you, ideally, for me, speaking, I'm walking in, and I know that we're doing a lot of these things. I'm very conscientious of how we deliver the message. I'm conscientious of putting the broader context in place so that the messaging, I'm conscientious of let's all get on, we all speaking the same language, so when we go out there, we all say the same message, and there's that unity that people are looking for. And my only hesitation is that it's Tuesday. This meeting is Tuesday. And I'm still over there for 2 days, trying to close up shop and take down my pictures from my office and all that other fun stuff. And then, I'm here Monday, my very first day, and then Tuesday's the very first meeting. And then don't we have another one on Thursday? Like they're coming, and so if I had more time, which I want to, so that we could craft our messaging better, because we only get one shot at rolling out positively, and I don't like going out there and not being able to speak with conviction about we've done our homework. I've done my homework. Right now I'm still, like I say at the beginning, I'm still trying to find the restrooms and the emergency exits in this place. And then once I figure those things out, then I can move on to the next thing. But I know that there's a lot of good intent, and I know that folks want to do well. I only want to help them, the board, be able to have successful community meetings and be there to support them, and that homework has been done. And that's my only hesitation right now, because it's like Tuesday. And it's like, man, if I had
Do we tie that into PTA or something? Tuesday.
And you see, and that's the other piece. So I don't want the board to continue to work in isolation of what the administrative team. You're going to set up a board meeting on the day that we have National Honor Society at the high school. Getting our calendars. I'm already getting a color-coded calendar put together in mind, so I can talk to you guys and go, hey, you're thinking about having this community meeting. If you move it from Tuesday to Wednesday, you'll be able to still attend this event at this campus, you'll be able to do these other things, and so that we can all work together in that regard instead of isolation from each other. So, because my goal is to help you guys. I want to help you with the craft, with the messaging, and how to work with responses when you guys get stuck, and I get all 3 of you looking at me like, sir? Yes, let me step in. Let me step in. Yeah, this is the job right here, guys. Go ahead. Don't hit me too hard, I still got to go home to the wife. But yeah, so I just think that this is what you can expect from me. I'm gonna work with you guys and as closely as it needs to be, so that our messaging is consistent, so we think about the broader context, so that we can go out there and present something positive to the community as we know we can.
And it may be because you control the structure. So the last one you did like a 20-minute. Okay. You don't have to stick to 20 minutes. It may be shorter. You may just want to know what their questions are. Because part of what they did was the Q&A. They put the questions.
I think that's the most powerful piece. More than any powerful presentation.
The whole purpose is to have the interactions and questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That frames the meeting.
Yeah. Now, that's where you have to be really agile on your feet, though.
And I think that's the whole thing, is the community engagement. I think that's the purpose.
It's their questions. Yeah. So you've got some things to consider in that. Okay, so you consider options. It's everything from you just move forward to no, you cancel and reschedule. I think you would lose more if you did this, in my opinion, because of
Of the
because-
trust.
because of the trust with the community. Okay, they read into it. But again, that's two outside people. It's your district, your kids.
And it will continue to get better.
Yeah.
I'm saying, I'm
Yeah.
gonna show up, I'm
Yeah.
gonna support them.
Sure.
Because this is the other piece, it's their meeting. And the administration's there, of course, I'm gonna show up for the superintendent at meetings. I've got to have that coffee with the superintendent at campuses or do community engagement talks, so we can talk about what we're trying to do as a district.
So as you're considering, I mean, keep it simple. Okay, I mean, think about what are the 2 or 3 things that we want them to know. Okay,
That's good advice from Susan. I think.
that's free.
Yeah.
It may not be good, but it's free.
The original intent for these meetings was to really stick to each meeting's topic and let folks know if we have a question about LSG, that's gonna have our next meeting or we're gonna have a future meeting. Is that, in your opinion, is that good to stick to say, today's meeting is about this, let's try to focus our questions on this?
So what I heard in the message, okay, is in the actual meeting was, I think that's good in terms of making sure you don't get a meeting that runs away, okay, because it can then turn into, and once they know that it can be anything, then it's just about stumping the panel. Okay? The second thing that I think reinforced the message was, we're going to read the question, we're going to share it with you, even though it wasn't on today's topic, and refer it to the administrative person that will take care of that. I mean, I thought, gee, I really wanted to go, yes! I wanted to jump up because I thought that was it. Because that sends the message that any question, even though it may not be on topic, is worthy.
And you honored it.
And you honored it. Okay, that's what builds trust. Okay? So don't feel compelled to answer and don't make stuff up. Okay? I mean, don't ever make stuff up. That's number one administrative lesson. Don't ever make stuff up. So, I mean, if you don't know or whatever, I mean, it happens to all of us. There's no way to know everything about it. It's just like, that's a great question. We'll have to get back. And that's okay. So I think it's okay to keep, it's like an agenda item, you say it, but you take others. Sorry.
But the other thing, it's not just to refer the question, it's to follow up to make sure that that follow-up was done. Because if you tell them something and they don't get a call or an answer, there goes your trust level again.
Absolutely. So one of the things was be sure to put your name and number down, okay? Plus it was written, email, or whatever it is. Because you're absolutely right. If we don't circle back, trust is predicated on, those of you that went to that session on Sunday, because I said I would. Okay? Because I said I would. Okay? I mean, it's about, that's what, absolutely, absolutely. So thank you. Is that helping? Okay.
So I'll be working with you guys on setting up that presentation, keeping it simple, focusing on top 3 things that we want our people to come away with. Monday's my full day here. I'm gonna try to work on it on Sunday so I can get a baseline based on the accountability presentation that we have.
We can talk about it.
Yeah, we'll
No, you're fine, you're fine. So, like I said, we only have now 47 more slides to go through. So we want to close this, and we're going to ask you in your packet is evaluation. So we appreciate some feedback.
For our continuous improvement.
Yes, because we look at that. I want to celebrate a couple of things. One is your openness this evening, your willingness to trust. Going into the circle it really is a trust thing, because it is different about, there's nothing. There's no table, there's no pen or something I can be fumbling with or whatever. It's here. So celebrate and honor that. Thank you. That's truly in the Lone Star governance spirit and lifelong learning.
Something that I'd like to celebrate is the use of I. Here you guys, you practicing Lone Star governance, the language, the actions, the intent behind it. It's truly awesome.
So you get to go back, fill out your form, that's your ticket out the door.
Yes, because our bulletin works for those.
Yes, thank you.
And we will get your certificates, and we will even count till 9.
get
On those
3 hours and 20 minutes.
Yes.
Oh, this survey?
It's usually the last page of the packet.
The one that says we did a salary adjustment.
Like mine?
Yeah, exactly.
Can we keep this in?
Touche.
Yeah, I like to keep it. And they don't need the books, right, the questions?
They're on a tight budget.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I need to get those back, but what I'll do is we'll
I'll
get
get
one to you.
We'll get them back to you.
Yeah, we'll get you.
We'll get you, how about we get you some copies?
That's fine.
Just send it
What, you know what?
digitally and I can make copies.
I'm gonna take one, I'll give it to you to make copies, and then we'll make copies of the other. Sorry, thank you. Hang on, I think it may be in here. No, it's not.
Oh, sign sheet.
Thank you. And Dan, you need to sign.
Get this.
You guys have it? I'll just-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is stuff I've been years.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I do need that, yes.